Chapter 10:29. In a wondrous place with floating meteors, numerous oddly shaped ancient starship wrecks were piled up on huge meteors like garbage. Numerous agile insects, sword lights, and lightning bolts were shuttling through the wrecks, as if they were looking for valuable materials to bring to their masters. Jean Runin and Sun Jun from the Red Devil School stood in front of a man from the Sword sect. The man's name was Yumu. He was the Heavenly Water Sword, who ranked last among the 9 sword immortals. His cultivation base was at the early freedom stage, and he was the leader of this temporary stronghold. On the nearby meteors, Yang Soul Grand Cultivators from the Lightning Element sect, the Cloud Water sect, the Taiyuan sect, and the Frigid Een sect were still searching for resources. Jean Runin and Sun Jun had sensed this human stronghold with the help of special tools. Only after arriving did they discover that it was a team of cultivators from the Tianyuan continent, who knew how far away they were from the domain of the Nirvana spirit world. Yumu was also surprised to see the 2 Yang Soul cultivators from the Red Devil School suddenly appear. After a brief conversation, Yumu learned from Jean Runin what they had encountered. 3 Yang Soul cultivators died at the hands of Yu Yuan, Yumu said in a low voice. He went through the spatial rift in the Nirvana spirit world to the Grey Paradise, where the bandits gathered. Yu Yuan is the drug god Hanch from 300 years ago. Upon hearing these words, Jean Runin and Sun Jun's expressions flickered with astonishment. Drug god Hong. Yumu, who had just entered the freedom stage, sighed inwardly as reminiscence flashed across his eyes. Because of his relationship with Jining Shuang and Hanch, Yumu had met Hanch when he was young, and had been given many precious medicinal pills and benefits by Hanch. When he had learned that Yu Yuan was the same person as Hanch, he had found it hard to accept. When he had heard that Yu Yuan had revealed his true identity in the forbidden land of the fallen moons in Howran, his senior martial sister Jining Shuang, who had betrayed the Sword sect, had done something for Yu Yuan, his feelings had become even more complicated. And now, a hunting team led by him had actually heard about Yu Yuan's whereabouts. Even though Jean Runin wouldn't tell him the location of the Grey Paradise, he had a rough idea. Should I go look for it? They really met. Could it be that they were going to meet with weapons? If senior martial sister Ji were to find out, would she rush into the galaxy to denounce me? Yumu was caught between a rock and a hard place. He didn't say anything for a long time. Jean Runin, on the other hand, had learned about the recent events that had taken place in Vast Expanse continent through him. She had heard that Yu Yuan had entered the forbidden land of the fallen moons as the controller of the heaven-sealing soul, refining formation, and the dragon beheading platform. She had first faced off against the allied human and demon armies, then been attacked by the great devil god Garek, and finally disappeared into the realm passageway. Yu Yuan was Hanch, and Hanch was Yu Yuan. It was no longer a secret in Howran. Yumu had also told him that Yu Yuan was highly regarded by the Shenhun sect, and was on the 5 great forces must-kill list. He was viewed as a traitor to Howran. However, Yumu had been vague about everything else about Yu Yuan. Jean Runin and Sun Jun hadn't met any powerful experts from their sects, so they didn't trust Yumu's words 100%. Therefore, they kept Yumu's words a secret. Experts from the Tranquil Continent and a few powerful demons will arrive soon, Yumu said with a blank expression. They'll go to the domain of annihilation after they've regrouped. Jean Runin was taken aback. The domain of annihilation? The Tongtian Trading Company has opened up a new realm in the domain of annihilation, Nie Tian said. They're going to build a prosperous trading ground for all races. Yumu nodded. We've been told to go to the domain of annihilation and see how many realms have been developed there. Jean Runin and Sun Jun exchanged a glance, thinking, what a coincidence. Dark Paradise and Lady Peach, who were under Yu Yuan's control, were also heading to the domain of annihilation. The master of the White Crane, the White Crane, and possibly more powerful experts from the Tongtian Trading Company, the Shunhun sect, and other invitees from other races were also going to gather in the domain of annihilation. "What's wrong?" Yumu asked curiously. Jean Runan shook his head. "And nothing." In a spacious battlefield, Yu Yuan leaned against the cold stone wall and watched the Shura girl leave in a hurry again, her clothes disheveled. Narrowing his eyes, he couldn't help but think of the absurd but charming scenes that had happened recently. After a long time, he couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. "No matter what, that girl has brought me unparalleled pleasure." Elena had come to him several times over the past few days to ask for sex. Every time, she would leave satisfied after a hearty battle. When she recovered slightly, she would take the initiative to fight again. Then, when she was exhausted, she would leave with a smile. She told him bluntly what she had gained through this method. Yu Yuan didn't mind. He carefully examined himself, and found that it didn't affect him at all. He had also washed away the hostility and irritation in him through this kind of battle. He had devoured a lot of flesh power from the dead outsider warriors with the wonders of the life altar, which contained a lot of evil thoughts. Originally, he had to slowly refine and eliminate those negative thoughts so that they wouldn't affect him. However, after every battle with Elena, he felt calm. Before he knew it, the negative thoughts that should have affected him had been eliminated. How could this work? Yu Yuan laughed softly. His Een spirit quietly came out and wandered around this land. He no longer had to worry about the defensive light shield being withdrawn or being ambushed again. While his Een spirit cultivated in this way, his heavenly soul comprehended the wonders of 9 slashes that raised the heavens. Every time he relaxed after pleasure, his mind would be clear, and he would be able to focus more on comprehending the wonders of the sword arts. Apart from Shattered Star, Fallen Moon, and Soul Severing, he had recently gained a new understanding of Spirit Annihilation and Sunsplitter. He had already started to practice them in his mind. "Yu Yuan, do you have time to talk?" Lady Peach's voice suddenly rang out from outside. This strange woman who had completely fallen into the demonic path had changed the way she addressed him. From haunch, she had started calling him Yu Yuan again. Hearing her voice, Yu Yuan pondered for a moment and realized what had happened. As expected, just as he nodded, Lady Peach stepped in. She took out a flowery handkerchief and fanned the air. "This smell is really strong." Hu Kaiyun looked at him with a smile, her eyes full of ridicule. "You weren't like this before." "Congratulations," Yu Yuan said in a lukewarm tone. Hu Tsayun's inner demon had completely refined her other self and replaced it. There would be no more accidents. Moreover, Yu Yuan felt that she had returned to the state of freedom. "I should have taken this step a long time ago. It's my other self that has been delaying me." Hu Kaiyun said casually. "You should have heard the rumors about me. You should know that I once had a soul mate who died in outer space. He didn't even have a name in Howran. No one has ever mentioned how he died." Yu Yuan sat up straight and his expression turned serious. This involved an essence soul. Moreover, it was an existence that he didn't know much about when he was the divine medicine haunch. His curiosity was piqued. "Because of his death, I became Lady Peach in the Rosy Cloud Miasma Sea. His death was because of the 3 high sects. The other side of my heart didn't dare to point the finger at the 3 high sections. This is because I, Hu Kaiyun, was originally from Xuantianzong like him. We were from the same sect. He ascended to the essence soul realm temporarily. Unfortunately, his ascension to godhood was a tragedy from the beginning. He became a god temporarily because someone needed him to go to a place and fight to the death against foreign experts. The 3 high sects had other arrangements for his supreme seat. He only sat there temporarily. The price he paid was that his soul was scattered and his body and soul were destroyed." Hu Tsayun's tone was initially agitated, but it gradually calmed down. In the end, it was so calm that it was terrifying. She didn't mention the specific name or the details of the process, but Yu Yuan already understood the gist of it. The three high sects sacrificed her true love to help him become a god temporarily and let him die quickly. All for the sake of letting him complete a certain death mission and drag some foreign experts down with him. Hu Kaiyun was also from Xuantianzong. Her master was the current Xuantianzong sect master. She had been in awe of her master since she was young. Although she knew that the death of her true love was the will of the three high sects and her master, she didn't dare to face it or resist. Therefore, the seed of hatred in the depths of her heart fused with the miasma poison and became her current inner demon. A person who dared to brandish a knife at her master and pursue the matter regardless of the consequences was a brand new Hu Kaiyun. Her original self disappeared and was refined. Perhaps it was also pushing the boat along with the current. She probably wanted to rely on her new, extreme self to seek an explanation and do something that she didn't dare to do before. After saying so much, what do you want me to help you with? Yu Yuan asked concisely. I will try my best to help you solve any problems you encounter on this trip. Of course, if there really is someone who is too strong for me to defeat, then it's a different story. Hu Kaiyun said seriously. What do you want me to do? Yu Yuan asked again. Help me introduce him to me. I want to join the Shunhun sect. I want to stand on the opposite side of my master. I want to stand in front of him one day without fear and ask for an answer. Hu Kaiyun said softly. How do you know I can do it? Yu Yuan asked curiously. Since you can obtain the dragon beheading platform, I believe that you must have a very deep relationship with the Shunhun sect. As I said, I came from Xuantianzong. My previous man was a primordial soul cultivator. I know what the dragon beheading platform means and who it represents. Lady Peach's expression was unusually serious. The dragon beheading platform is the Shunhun sect's most precious treasure. Since you can control it, you must have cultivated the Shunhun sect's secret technique. Yu Yuan looked at her deeply and muttered to himself for a while. There was Hei Sun before. You? Isn't that because I haven't changed my mindset back then? Hu Tsayun's eyes were burning. At that time, I hadn't made up my mind and didn't dare to brandish my knife at the three high sections. Okay. Yu Yuan nodded slowly. I agree. Hu Kaiyun smiled sweetly. Boom. At this moment, the sound of a building collapsing rang out. Yu Yuan and Hu Kaiyun smiled in surprise and flashed outside together. They saw that the square stone tower had been reduced to a pile of rubble. Elena's cries of pain came from under the huge pile of rubble. Accompanied by her howls, huge boulders that were as large as millstones were shattered into pieces. The Shura warrior who had rushed over and almost been poisoned to death by Lady Peach was dumbstruck in front of the pile of rubble outside. Pattinson, Hart, Benin, and the others also looked curiously at the pile of rubble. Boom boom. Pillars of blood energy blasted the rubble into the air. Elena waved her arms, her eyes filled with the light of excitement. Her cheers were like thunder. My bloodline has broken through. From now on, I'm a rank 8 bloodline warrior. The Shura warrior immediately grew excited and moved closer to take a look. Extremely rich flesh and blood energy erupted from Elena's chest like an ocean. He was absolutely certain that the Elena in front of him had broken through to rank 8 bloodline at such a young age. Such a young rank 8 bloodline warrior was extremely rare even in the Shura race. Pattinson of the Shadow race secretly probed and confirmed that Elena wasn't lying. She was now a true rank 8 Shura warrior. He also knew that Elena's rank 7 bloodline had been stabilized a long time ago. She did have the foundation to break through again. However, bloodline breakthroughs were like human realms. It was extremely difficult. A small barrier could cause a bloodline to stagnate for hundreds of years. Pattinson heard from Elena's father that if there were no accidents, it would take at least a few decades for her bloodline to break through. Why had the time suddenly shortened by so much? Just as Pattinson was secretly surprised, he noticed that Elena's eyes were shining. She stared straight at the astonished Yu Yuan and seemed to understand something. Could it be while Pattinson was deep in thought, Elena stood in front of Yu Yuan and Hu Kaiyun with a whoosh? You also want to get those abilities from him? Elena glared at Hu Kaiyun angrily and fiercely. It looked like she wanted to fight to the death. Yu Yuan is my man. I won't allow you to have any bad ideas about him. Also, you're a human. He can only make you pregnant, but he won't give you bloodline transformation. What the hell was going on? Hu Kaiyun was confused. She looked at Yu Yuan beside her. What nonsense is this crazy girl talking about? You can make me pregnant, but I can't undergo bloodline transformation? Stupid girl, go away if you want to go crazy. Don't ruin my good mood. Hu Kaiyun scolded impatiently. Pregnant? Bloodline transformation? Pattinson, Hart, and Bei Ning thought of Elena's recent abnormal behavior. They seemed to understand the profound meaning behind her bloodline transformation. All of a sudden, the way they looked at Yu Yuan became strange. Stop spouting nonsense. Yu Yuan let out a dry laugh and went to stop Elena from spouting nonsense, lest she went overboard with her words. I'm not talking nonsense. Elena pushed Hu Kaiyun away from Yu Yuan as if she was demonstrating. She held Yu Yuan's arm and said intimately, You're my man. It's thanks to you that my bloodline was able to evolve so quickly. You may be a human of Howren, but you're different from other humans. The life altar inside Yu Yuan's body contained the aura of the refined blood of various races. This made her very certain. The man that Elena had chosen was extraordinary. He was not a pure human. My old man is in Kaf's territory. Chapter 1030. The heart-shaped necklace hanging from Elena's snow-white neck gave off subtle vibrations. She was the only one who could sense these faint vibrations with her bloodline. It was because this heart-shaped necklace contained a drop of her father Fernand's refined blood. Every drop of a ninth-grade outsider's blood essence contained wondrous wonders. Moreover, the necklace was imprinted with mysterious patterns that allowed her and Fernand to sense each other within a certain range. Elena's sexy body suddenly rose into the air. She landed on a high platform and looked at the distant stars. She said softly, Moonlight Realm. Moonlight Realm. Pattinson stilled and then reacted. He said dazedly, I didn't think that we would come close to Kaf's hiding place. Sigh, time passes so quickly. Yu Yuan, come up here. Elena beckoned. Whoosh. Yu Yuan stepped into the air and landed beside her unhurriedly. Following her gaze, he saw an oval-shaped continent in the dark starry river in the distance. Since it was still very far away, he didn't know how big that continent was. Above that continent, in the distant stars, there was a bright, waning moon hanging high in the sky and releasing hazy moonlight. The oval-shaped continent seemed to be eternally bathed in moonlight. Yu Yuan pointed at the waning moon and asked curiously, What's that? Living on that crescent moon are members of the Moonlit clan, who have noble identities and high bloodline grade. Only those of the Moonlight clan whose bloodline is above level 5 and who are born in a good family are qualified to live in that crescent moon. Elena explained, The realm that Karf secretly controls is the Moonshine realm that is close to us and bathed in moonlight. There are many realms around the same size as the Moonlight realm where low-rank Moonlight people live. My father is in the Moonlight realm. Kaf probably learned of Lamming's death through the Trident. That's why I invited him and Ronnie of the Shadow Clan to kill you in the Moonshine realm. At this point, the corners of her lips curled up. If it weren't for us, if you weren't my man, I wouldn't have told you so much. I'll pretend that I don't know anything and let the gloomy paradise descend upon the Moonshine realm. I'll make you suffer. Yu Yuan was surprised. He hadn't expected that the status of the outsiders in the Starry River would be so different. Moonlight people with higher bloodlines and status lived on the bright moon, while the weak and lowly clansmen lived in the moonshine world that was illuminated by the moonlight. Wasn't this the same as Hauran? Mortals lived in the various empires of the Qian continent. Cultivators with high statuses and high cultivation bases lived in the Tianyuan continent and the Tranquil continent. At this moment, Pattinson also rose into the air and stood side by side with the two of them. Lord Fernan is here, and my brother should be here too. They must be prepared. Pattinson frowned and said with a headache, "The situation has changed, and we don't know how many experts there are in the moonshine realm. Also, I may not be able to persuade my brother. How about we don't go to the moonshine realm, and secretly circle around and go to the Annihilation Star region?" Elena stuck out her tongue. She didn't know what crazy things her father would do if he found out that she was related to the human boy. Yuan, my father's brain isn't very good. Let's forget it. Looking at her expression and behavior, it was clear that the Azura race general wasn't easy to deal with. Yuan frowned inwardly. Kaf, Rani, and Fernan, the three rank 9 bandit kings, were hiding in the moonshine realm and waiting for the gloomy paradise to stop. If it was just Kaf, he felt that with Hu Kaiyun, who had returned to the Freedom Realm, and himself, victory was assured. But now there were 2 more rank 9 foreign warriors. His soul thought moved, and he saw Yue in the small world inside the cauldron in another tower. Then Yue continued to receive the glittering crystals from the hands of the Black Woman, the Armor Breaker, the Yellow Lamp, and the Silver Lock. She melted them into her body and built, polished, and strengthened her brand new body repeatedly. He tried to communicate with Yue and learned that Yue, as the artifact's soul, couldn't participate in the battle for a short time. Black Woman, Armor Breaker, Yellow Lantern Devil, and Yin Suan needed to focus and help her refine her body. Consort Han was the only one who wasn't affected. She could respond to his call at any time, fly out of the cauldron and kill enemies for him. But if it was just Consort Han? He rubbed his chin and evaluated carefully. He felt that Consort Han's current strength should be enough to deal with a rank 9 warrior who didn't come from a regular army. Kaf's combat strength will increase slightly in the Moonlight Realm, Pattinson reminded cautiously. If we enter that realm and fight there, will the other experts of the Moonlight people on the moon be alarmed? Yuan asked. Pattinson shook his head. If you look with your eyes, it seems to be very close, but it's actually very far away. The Moonlight people on the waning moon can't observe the battle in the Moonlight Realm from so far away. Also, when we went to the Moonlight Realm in the past, we would temporarily put aside the other 2 continents and only approach with the one under our feet. He pointed down. The other 2 continents will stay motionless in the distance. The fluorescent energy shield will withdraw its power and make it inconspicuous. Even the low-grade Moonlight people on the Moonlight Realm won't notice it. Forget it, Elena said. Let's not go there. Both of them were trying to persuade him. They wanted to wait until the Dark Paradise reached the domain of annihilation and the realms designated by the Tongtian Trading Company. Then, even if Kaf and the other 2 bandits came, they wouldn't dare to do anything to them. At that time, Pattinson would be able to calmly explain the situation to his elder brother. Elena would also have enough time and energy to make her father listen to her calmly. Oh right. The Moonlight people don't have anything to do with the Moon Devils, do they? Staring at the crescent moon in the distance, Yuan couldn't help but recall his first encounter with the Moon Devils in the Forbidden Land of the Fallen Moons. The Moon Devils were a branch of the Heavenly Devils in the Outer Realms. They lived on the moons all year round. The members of the Night Moon clan also liked to search for the moon. The nobles and high-grade bloodline warriors among them lived on the moon like the moon demons. Let's put it this way. Many of the high-grade Moonlight people are the best targets for the Moon Devils to possess. Pattinson sighed softly. If the Moon Devils hadn't been slaughtered so many times, the Moonlight people wouldn't have risen to power. I heard that the Moon Devils enslaved all of the Moonlight people in the distant past. There are fewer and fewer Moon Devils now, Elena said. They were all killed by humans. Unlike the Blood Devils, the Moon Devils don't have bodies at the beginning. When they reach a certain level of strength, they have to refine bodies. The Moonlight people, whose bloodlines are compatible with the moon, are the best targets for them to possess. They paused for a moment. Elena lowered her voice and looked around cautiously. Then, she moved closer to Yu Yuan and whispered into his ear, "My father once told me that some of the Moonlight people are actually Moon Devils in their bones. They have been possessed by the Moon Devils, who have taken over their bodies and walked the world as them." With these words, she narrowed her eyes and looked towards the Moonlight realm. "Don't worry. Kaf is definitely not like that." Yu Yuan was dazed. The information Pattinson and Elena had revealed to him had surprised him. He had never imagined that the Moon Devils, who had been almost wiped out by moon-severing realm cultivators, had once been so powerful. The Moonlight people that Kaf and Laming were from had been enslaved by the Moon Devils when the Heavenly Devils had dominated the Starry River. "What are you thinking?" Elena begged. "Let's not go to the Moonlight realm, okay?" Yu Yuan gathered his thoughts and nodded. "I'm not stupid. Since there are so many dangers and there are no benefits, why would I go to my death?" "That's good. Moonlight realm." A silver-white drop of blood essence spun on the tip of Azura General Fernand's finger. Elena's blurry figure could be vaguely seen inside it. A level 9 bloodline belonged to the so-called Platinum Azura. Their blood would be this color after being refined. The youngest son of the Shura of Gojoseon, who had been killed and had his head pierced by a scabbard and fallen into the barren Forgotten Lands, was at this level. This was because he had been to the Dark Realm and had been baptized there. Moreover, he was the son of the Shura of Gojoseon. His bloodline was purer and stronger. Although he was also a Platinum Azura, he was much stronger than Fernand. "Elena!" Fernand shook and became excited. He stared at the drop of blood essence on his finger and sucked in a deep breath. He said, "My obedient daughter's bloodline seems to have changed. Why do I feel that her bloodline has reached level 8? "Stop dreaming, okay?" Ronnie of the Shadow Race sneered. "Elena's talent is good, but she's still far from breaking through the bloodline limit again. She's Fernand's child, not the child of your patriarch or those old fellows. There's no way her bloodline can mutate and produce the miracle you speak of." Kaf, who had lost his son, wiped his glasses and said sarcastically, "Laming is dead, and Elena's bloodline has reached level 8. Brother, are you trying to anger me to death? Only your daughter is capable, and my son is trash. Is that what you mean?" Beside the stone pillar, the former empress of the empire looked at the three bandits arguing with a dark expression. "Kaf, I don't mean to offend you, but Laming is not as good as my daughter." When he mentioned Elena, his eyes were full of love and pride. "After all, you've spread too many seeds, and caused his bloodline to be impure. That's fine. You have many children, and maybe another powerful one will appear." "Oh!" Ronnie of the Shadow Race shook. "The Grey Paradise's trajectory has changed. They're no longer heading straight for the Moonlight Realm. Damn it, they didn't want to land in the Moonlight Realm." Just like Pattinson, he had left many devices inside the 3 continents of the Grey Paradise. He couldn't sense Elena like Fernand, and he didn't have that terrifying trident. However, he was more familiar with the Grey Paradise than the other 2 bandit kings. After all, strictly speaking, the gloomy paradise had been created by him and his younger brother, Pattinson, through painstaking efforts. "Maybe we should charge out and stop the Grey Paradise." Karf put on his glasses again and stared at the dark starry sky through the open dome. "The 3 of us will go out and pull the gloomy paradise back." On the bright moon above the Moonlight Realm, An old woman of the Moonlight People with a head full of silver hair was explaining the wonders of the Moonlight People's bloodline to a dozen or so talented young clansmen inside a school-like palace. She told them how to activate their bloodline, create moon blades, and attack imaginary enemies. The old woman sat on a cushion. She looked like she was sitting on a wave of moon energy. Her aura was otherworldly. Suddenly, she felt a strong sense of uneasiness in the depths of her heart. Terrifying scenes immediately appeared in her mind. A figure swung a sword. The crimson sword light cut through the galaxy. The moon, which was countless times bigger and brighter than the one she was sitting on, turned into giant meteors. Many Moonlight People died under the crimson sword light. Many Moonlight Devils, who were in their original form of souls or had taken over the bodies of the Moonlight People, died tragically under the crimson sword light. The ancient sacred land of the Moonlight Devils was drowned by the crimson sword light. The glory of the race dimmed because of it. The old woman trembled all over. The deep-seated hatred that had been suppressed for thousands of years was inexplicably ignited and burned fiercely like a raging fire. The aura of the heaven-raising sword. Under the confused gazes of the young men and women of the Night Moon clan, the old lady flew out of the palace while sitting on a magical futon. The wand that was immersed in the moonlight broke free from its confinement and flew out like a silver lightning bolt. She grabbed the wand and broke through the silver boundary wall, shooting toward the dark galaxy like a shooting star. At the same time, the sword soul in Yu Yuan's arm seemed to be awakened from its slumber and issued a strong warning. On the gray paradise, which had deviated from its previous course, Yu Yuan, who was talking to Elena, trembled slightly. His expression gradually became serious. Chapter 1031. The old lady of the Moonlight People gripped her scepter tightly as she broke through the silver realm barrier and sped through the galaxy like a dazzling meteor. The praying mat that flew out with her continued to grow in size. In just a short period of time, it had grown more than 10 times larger than before. The praying mat gradually transformed into a blurry ring of moon energy. Inside the ring of light, many crescent-shaped ponds could be vaguely seen. The ponds were filled with bright liquid. Sky-raising sword. A tiny crescent-shaped crystal appeared between the old lady of the Moonlight People's eyebrows. It was as if it was her other eye. She waved the scepter in her hand and chanted in an ancient devil language that didn't belong to the Moonlight People. The waning moon that she had escaped from suddenly became dim. The light of the moon seemed to have been absorbed in an instant. On the other hand, the moon ponds inside the ring of moon energy that surrounded her from the praying mat looked like they were about to overflow. She seemed to have used the ancient divine power of a secret curse to obtain abundant moon energy from the waning moon. "Find it for me." She waved the staff in her hand, and streaks of dazzling meteors flew out in all directions with her as the center. Every meteor had become an eye for her, an extension of her soul and psychic power. She could sense the aura of the heaven-raising sword from a certain distance. Even someone as powerful as her couldn't accurately lock onto the target in the cold, desolate depths of the galaxy. She could only sense the sword intent of the sky-raising sword. She knew that it wasn't far from her, but she couldn't pinpoint its exact location. No matter who it is, whoever holds the sword in Yechingtian's hand must die. Her benevolent face was filled with savagery and viciousness. She looked like an evil spirit that had been hiding for thousands of years had been released. She bared her fangs and opened her bloody mouth. Inside Kaf's castle in the Moonlight Realm, the Silver Moon Queen, Liu Pan, stood under the stone pillars of the palace and stared deeply at the dome. Outside the dark, starless sky, only a waning moon hung high in the sky, unchanging for 10,000 years. She could sense that Kaf, Fernan, and Rani, the 3 rank 9 bandits, had secretly left the Moonluster realm. They were going to bring the transformed gray paradise back to this realm. Suddenly, the sky of the Moonshine world, which was always shrouded in bright moonlight, suddenly darkened. The brightness of the entire world suddenly decreased by a lot, causing the atmosphere of the world to become strange. This subtle change caused many moonlight people loyal to Kaf to discuss carefully in every corner of the castle. They said that it must be the moon hanging high in the sky. Pure moon energy was rapidly being extracted, causing the moon realm that was always bright because it bathed in moonlight to have such a change. Liu Pan frowned slightly, deep in thought. Soon, she heard a soft voice. Then, a small crescent-shaped crystal appeared between her eyebrows. The soul thought of the ancient moon devil, who called herself Consort Yu, came from the small crescent crystal. Xiao Pan, I sense the presence of my kind. That person is from the same generation as me. But he is much stronger than the current me. The Silver Moon Queen's thin figure shook slightly. She frowned and said, same kind. The name Xiao Pan was given to her by the ancient moon demon within her body. Imperial concubine Moon had a relationship with the Li family a long time ago. The birth of Liu Pan, the origin of her name, and the secret moon demon mystic arts she cultivated were all arranged by Imperial concubine Moon ahead of time. When she came to the outer realms, she understood that the bloodline of the moonlight people inside her was given to her by Consort Yu. The ancient moon devil race was extremely compatible with the moonlight people. The reason she mixed the bloodline of the moonlight people was to better suit Consort Yu. It was Consort Yu who helped the Li family become the royal family of the Silver Moon Empire, and helped her become the Silver Moon Queen. Consort Yu was the third shadow behind her. She was her strongest support. As a sun god, she was able to soar in the outer domain with her true body. She could appear in the starry sky where the filthy energy was surging because she had the blood of the Yuya clan in her body. She was different from ordinary people. Xiao Pan, don't misunderstand me just because you heard some bad rumors in the outer realms. Consort Yu knew what she was thinking. The past is the past, and the present is the present. In the most ancient times, the Moon Devil clan enslaved the Moonlit Night clan's clansmen and took over their bodies to strengthen themselves. That was really the past. The Moon Devil race was almost completely slaughtered by that moon-severing great cultivator of the human race. After that, the remaining clansmen hid as much as possible. Gradually, we found other ways to survive. You and I coexist. I am relying on you to recover and become stronger, not to take over your body one day. What I'm sensing now is similar to what I'm experiencing. That one has been with a moonlight people for thousands of years. She's already used to her identity as a moonlight people. Consort Yu, an ancient moon devil in the crescent crystal between the Empress's eyebrows, explained sincerely. Why did she suddenly rush out of the moon? The Empress asked. I think it's because of Yu Yuan. Yu Yuan has the scabbard of the heaven-raising sword, and the sword soul. Consort Yu's soul rippled. When I first met him in the Forbidden Grounds, I knew that he had gained the sword soul's approval. I'm still very weak now, and I haven't been in the outer realms for long. I can't smell that terrifying sword intent. That one of my kind must have survived the calamity back then. After so long, she's already very strong. Consort Yu explained. Many years ago, when a member of the Li family was training in the Forbidden Grounds, he accidentally brought most of her out. She formed an alliance with the Li family and helped the Li family become strong and become emperor. After she left, she instructed the head of the Li family to find a woman with the bloodline of the Moonlight people. That was how she created Liu Pan. Liu Pan was born because of her. The sealing heaven soul vanquishing formation was too terrifying, so she couldn't escape in one piece. She had left a part of herself in the Forbidden Land and became the so-called strongest moon devil. She had fought against Yu Yuan several times in the Forbidden Land, and in the end, Emperor Han Tian had managed to escape. That part of her had been devoured by him with the heroic soul art. After so many years, Under her careful nurturing, Li Yupan successfully condensed the yang spirit and smoothly escaped into the galaxy. What should we do? The Silver Moon Queen asked calmly. Go out with her. That one of my kind can sense me when you leave the moonlight realm, consort, you said. All right. Then, what are those? On the high platform, Elena saw beautiful fireworks under the bright waning moon. Then, she could vaguely see bright meteors shooting through the darkness and shooting in all directions. The waning moon was actually very far away from them, but because the meteors were too bright, she saw them. I don't know. Yu Yuan's expression was dark. At this time, he and the sword soul in his arms secretly communicated and roughly understood the situation. The high-ranking nobles of the Moonlight Clan lived on the moon. There were powerful members of the Moonlight Clan who were possessed by the Moonlight Demon of the Outer Sky Demons, and their ranks were not low. That ancient Moon Devil had been seriously injured by the sky-piercing sword. There was even a remnant sword intent in his soul. At a certain distance, the sword intent in the Moon Devil's body, the scabbard, and the sword soul in his arm resonated slightly and alerted the ancient Moon Devil. As a result, he became a target. For example, Ghost King Mingdu, who had been killed by the sky-piercing sword in the Land of Terror, knew everything when he met him for the first time because of the remnant sword intent. From Yu Yuan's point of view, the sword soul that had awakened from the arm bone was far less intelligent than Yui. It was filled with a sense of mechanized stupidity. It seemed that its own spirituality had not been released at all. Maybe it was because the sky-piercing sword's blade was missing and only the scabbard was left, or maybe the sword soul was incomplete. Hee. At this moment, Madame Peach Blossom chuckled softly. From the colorful clouds that surged around her, 2 clansmen of the Yu Yi clan appeared. The 2 rank 8 bloodline experts, who were supposed to be chasing Zhan Runan and Sun Jun, had blank expressions. Their eyes didn't seem to have their own thoughts and consciousness. The refined energy in their bloodlines, bones, and flesh had all disappeared. Only a little bit of their souls remained. Hu Kaiyun hadn't extracted all of them, and there was still a little power to be refined. When Yu Yuan had killed Lamming and intimidated Pattinson and Elena, Lady Peach had taken the opportunity to secretly devour the subordinates Lamming had sent over. Later, because Pattinson and Elena had surrendered of their own accord, she wasn't in a hurry to kill the Shadow Race and Azura Race experts. These 2 clansmen of the Moonlit Night Clan had been killed and refined by her. Now they were almost dead, but not completely dead. She pressed a hand on the forehead of one of the Moonlight people, and a strange power appeared in her palm. This rank 8 Moonlight People warrior's memories were organized by his remnant thoughts and sent back some information to Hu Kaiyun. Yu Yuan, Calf should have come out. When I was refining the remnant souls of these 2 fellows, I sensed an abnormal movement. Madame Peach Blossom said casually. Standing next to her, Pattinson saw that the Moonlight People warrior's face was covered in blood when she spoke. Pattinson's face twitched. A month ago, this expert of the Moonlit Night Clan, who had been casually manipulated by Madame Peach Blossom, was his comrade in arms. But now Pattinson sighed softly. He felt more and more afraid of the Howran people. Calf has come out. My old man and Ronnie must have come out as well. Elena's side was now completely on Yu Yuan's side. Ronnie and Pattinson are too familiar with the Grey Paradise. With Ronnie here, our location must have been exposed. Yu Yuan's expression changed when he heard this. Pooh. After the first rank 8 Moonlight People warrior's soul was destroyed by Lady Peach in a way similar to soul searching, she used the same method on the second Moonlight People warrior. Yu Yuan, the meteors you saw just now were indeed searching for something. Hu Tsayun's eyes shone with strange light. Every bit of strange light was the information she had just collected. There is a priestess of the Moonlight People on the moon. She has a rank 9 bloodline and her name is Bertha. Bertha came out of the moon and walked in the dark galaxy with the power of that scepter. While Hu Kaiyun was speaking, The second rank 8 Moonlight People warrior breathed his last and died without a trace of his soul. Rank 9 Bloodline, Bertha, and there is an ancient moon devil inside her body. It is very likely that they are coexisting. Yu Yuan's expression grew more serious as he weighed the pros and cons in his mind. After that, the sword soul gave him another warning. Yu Yuan was stunned. He licked the corner of his lips, and his expression grew even stranger. According to the arm-bone sword soul, an old acquaintance of his had also left the Moonlight Realm and entered the galaxy. Before that person left the Moonlight Realm, due to the existence of the realm barrier and the fact that the sword soul was in a dormant state, he wouldn't have sensed anything. However, that person didn't just happen to come out. The sword soul was alerted by Bertha and the moon devil inside her body. Naturally, the sword soul smelled Consort Yu's presence. Back in the Forbidden Grounds, Yu Yuan, who had obtained a sword soul affinity, had tangled with that ultimate moon devil. Later, he discovered that the ultimate moon devil he had tangled with was only a small part of Consort Yu. Therefore, there had been another battle in the barren abandoned lands, which resulted in the Silver Moon Queen being captured alive. He had never thought that he would meet Consort Yu again in this world, in the Moonlight Realm. He might even meet the Empress who had broken through to the Sun God Realm. "Is there a problem?" Hu Kaiyun asked with a smile. "We are in big trouble." Yu Yuan pointed at the moon and then pointed at the lustrous moon realm. "Several rank 9 bloodline experts are coming towards us from the moon and the lustrous moon realm." "Hey, this dark paradise of yours doesn't seem to be able to hide its tracks at all. It is clearly moving in the dark, so how is it that you can sense everything?" he shouted at Pattinson. Pattinson of the Shadow Race blushed with sweat and lowered his head. "My brother can accurately lock onto the dark paradise. Don't worry, I will do my best to deal with my father." Elena puffed out her chest. "If worse comes to worst, I will say that I am pregnant with your child." When she said this, Yu Yuan's head hurt even more. That Bei Ning, who was a void spirit, stood at the foot of the high platform and looked up at Yu Yuan. After a moment of hesitation, he said, "Give me that stone. I'll be able to communicate with my master in the forbidden area. My teacher can come here at any time." Her teacher, Fei Shui, was a rank 9 bloodline expert of the Void Phantom race. How could there be two elders of the same rank? Hearing her words, she wanted to beg Fei Shui to come and help Yu Yuan solve his problem. "No need." Yu Yuan refused coldly. The situation in front of him was complicated enough. If the Void Phantoms were mixed in, this dragon-subduing platform would most likely be lost. Give up the 2 continents, avoid the Moon Luster Realm, leave the moon, and leave as quickly as possible. Yu Yuan looked at Pattinson. "I heard Elena say that the Dark Paradise will be much faster without the 2 continents at the back. Even Calf may not be able to catch up." That's true." Pattinson nodded. "Why are you looking at me?" Elena glared at him. "I'm determined to go to the Annihilation Star Domain with him. If you don't want to go, you can stay on the 2 continents at the back. Your brother and my father are both here. Won't the resources of the 2 continents be transported to the Moon Luster Realm?" I'm afraid of the future." Pattinson looked troubled. "Please hurry. Otherwise you will die." Lady Peach smiled brightly and turned to look at the land behind them. "Your Shadow Clan clansmen, no matter if they are high or low level, will all be poisoned to death. Moreover, it will be so fast that you won't be able to react." She had always been wary of Pattinson and didn't trust him. She was also wary of Elena. The colorful sea of clouds surging out of her body rolled, and looked like it was about to spread out. If one looked closely, they would see many corpses floating in the sea of clouds. There were many souls of foreign races, great monsters and savage beasts. Lady Peach, who had completely fallen into the demon path and wanted to seek justice for her master, was stronger than before after returning to the Freedom Realm. The aura she exuded was cold-blooded and heartless. Oh, okay. Pattinson's forehead was sweating. He was afraid of this beautiful human woman from the bottom of his heart. Recalling the threat of the White Crane of the Tongtian Trading Company, he thought it would be safer to obey her order. Thus, he returned to the edge of the land, crouched, and pressed his hands on the ground. Clang! 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 One after another, the golden chains that connected the two continents behind them fell off like giant dragons loosening their jaws. Chapter 1032. As soon as the golden chains broke free from the two continents, the Dark Paradise's speed skyrocketed, like a wild horse that had broken free of its reins. Swish! A dark bolt of lightning suddenly passed under the land of the Moon Luster realm. The sudden increase in speed surprised even Yu Yuan at first. How can it be so fast? Madame Peach Blossom was also secretly surprised. Compared to the dilapidated ancient black iron starship she had been on earlier, the Dark Paradise, which was controlled by the three lords of the bandits, displayed its original speed. Only then did she realize that the Dark Paradise wasn't at the same level as the ancient black iron starship at all. Pride appeared on Pattinson's face as he said, "Without the two continents at the back, the Dark Paradise won't be much slower than the ancient starships that are famous for their speed." The piles of energy crystals in the core of the Dark Paradise had been built by him and Ronnie. Many of the secret devices had also been put together by him. Seeing that even Yu Yuan and Lady Peach were astonished, he felt proud and elated. Elena pointed at Pattinson and said, "Let me tell you, the two continents at the back can actually self-destruct at critical moments. This guy is very cunning. If we run into a regular army that's hard to deal with, the two continents at the back can detonate, and the approaching starships will be blown up into a rain of flames in a breath's time." Pattinson gave her a stern look. "Shut up." This girl had shared all the secrets of the Dark Paradise with Yu Yuan, an outsider. If they relied on the Dark Paradise to operate in the Starry River in the future, wouldn't everyone know how powerful it was? Your father and the other two won't be able to catch up with it at such a high speed, will they? Yu Yuan was more concerned about this. They won't be able to, Elena said with certainty. However, when she noticed the streaks of glorious shooting stars near the bright waning moon, she muttered, "Bertha of the Moonlight People seems to be wielding a moon-chasing scepter." The Moon-Chaser Staff is a very famous artifact of the Moonlight People. It is famous for its exploration and speed. Can the staff catch up? Yu Yuan was slightly surprised. Moonchaser Staff. Below, Benin's expression changed slightly. "You know about it too?" Yu Yuan asked curiously. "Do you still remember? There was also a girl from the Moonlight People who entered the Nirvana spirit world with us." Benin's face was downcast. "Her name was Grace. I've heard her talk about the magic of the moon-chasing staff. From the looks of it, Grace went to Waning Moon and followed the experts there for a short period of cultivation." "The Moonchaser Staff is indeed extraordinary," Lady Peach said. She had just picked out the most important parts from the remnant memories of the two Moonlight People's 8th-rank clansmen and analyzed them. She had also obtained some information about the Moonchaser Staff. "However, that Bertha of the Moonlight People can't discover us at all," she said. Pattinson agreed. "Logically speaking, even if Bertha has the moon-chasing staff, she shouldn't be able to pinpoint our location at such a distant place." After abandoning the two continents behind them, the Dark Paradise's energy shield faded. It moved under the Moonlight Realm and became even more hidden. No matter how powerful Bertha was, it was impossible for her influence to spread across the entire universe. Below the oval Moonlight Realm. "Damn it!" Calf was flustered and exasperated. He stood in the dark universe and watched as a bolt of lightning streaked across the cold universe beneath his feet. He was too familiar with the gloomy paradise. He immediately recognized that the unusual light was the gloomy paradise that had been completely unsealed. The gloomy paradise, left behind the burden behind, concealed its tracks, and drove past the moonshine world at an extremely fast speed. "I'm worried that something will happen to Elena." Azura General Fernand's expression turned dark. He was no longer as relaxed as before. "She's in the dark paradise, but she hasn't sent me any messages. I can't even contact her. Just now I was so close to her. If she wasn't bound, she could have called for help. Pattinson is also here. He's the only one who can undo the golden chains and make the dark paradise sail at full speed." Ronnie of the Shadow Race gritted his teeth. Someone forced him to do this. The 3 rank 9 bandit kings hadn't boarded another warship because they had rushed out of Moon Luster Realm in a hurry. They knew that the unsealed dark paradise was so fast that even a regular army's warship couldn't catch up to it. There was no way the 3 of them could catch up to the dark paradise in their flesh and blood state. Whoosh! Just as their hearts were burning with anxiety, Empress Silvermoon slowly walked to stand in the starry sky behind them. Her elegant figure was wreathed in dazzling silver light. A small part of the hazy moon power that shone on the Moonlight Realm was pulled into her body. Moonlight people's bloodline? Ronnie of the Shadow Race was clearly shocked. He stared blankly at Li Yupan. "You have a thin bloodline of the Moonlight people inside you? If she wasn't a mixed blood, she wouldn't have dared to expose herself to the filthy power of the universe like us." Calf snorted coldly. "Why did you come out? As long as the person who killed my son is still alive, our deal is temporarily cancelled." Under the bright moonlight, the Silver Moon Queen's expression was indifferent. She sneered coldly in her heart. The method she used to gather moon power wasn't the secret bloodline art of the Moonlight people. It was a wondrous method that only the ancient moon devils knew and could use. The waning moon was still clearly visible in the dark sky. He knew that when the waning moon became smaller, he would be free of Bertha and wouldn't have to worry about finding him. More than half a day passed like this. Streaks of shooting stars that didn't have any specific trajectories seemed to be slowly changing directions from the distant starry river to the direction of the gray paradise. Even more shocking was that Bertha, who had been conspicuous earlier, had disappeared at some point. Yu Yuan gradually felt that something was wrong. Restless, he tried to communicate with the Sword Soul. "She's here." The message from the Sword Soul caused Yu Yuan's expression to change. He immediately felt like he was facing a great enemy. Half a day later, on the other side of the gloomy paradise, which was similar to the Moonshine Realm, a powerful magnetic field suddenly pulled the gloomy paradise to a halt. Boom! Boom boom boom! The ground under everyone's feet shook like an earthquake. The piles of energy crystals inside seemed to be restrained by rope. Pattinson walked out of the tower he usually stayed in. He glanced at Yu Yuan and said, "We've been targeted." At this time, other than Elena, who was at a critical stage of bloodline stabilization, Benin, Hart, and Lady Peach were awakened by the tremors of dark paradise. Everyone gathered. At this moment, the silver-haired Bertha, who was standing on a cushion made of many moon pawns and holding an exquisite scepter named Moon Chaser, suddenly passed through the fluorescent energy barrier and appeared in front of everyone. "Dark paradise!" Bertha snorted with a cold expression. "Calf, you, a member of the Moonlight people, colluded with the human race. You are a disgrace to your race. You don't even deserve to be a bandit. Come out. I will teach you a lesson on behalf of the ancestors of the Moonlight people." Bessa raised the Moon Chaser staff above her head, and the crescent-shaped formation suddenly released boundless moonlight that enveloped the entire dark paradise. In this instant, she was already very clear about how many experts were hidden in the dark paradise, what kind of race they were from, and what level their bloodline was at. "He's not here?" Bertha was shocked. Then, she focused on Yu Yuan. She took a deep breath and said coldly, You are the Yu Yuan Grek is looking for? Oh, you know? Yu Yuan said calmly. At this time, he was also secretly sensing and judging. He thought that if Elena and Pattinson weren't lying to him, Calf and the other two bandit kings shouldn't be able to catch up to Dark Paradise or move as fast as the Moon Chaser. Therefore, the three bandits probably hadn't come. In other words, he was only facing Bertha, who had a rank 9 bloodline. At most, there was the ancient moon demon inside Bertha's body. You have the remnant sword intent of the heaven-raising sword on you. Bertha's expression was vicious. Do you know that Nye Qingtian is the mortal enemy of many races? I know. With a faint smile, Yu Yuan summoned the scabbard from within his cosmos ring. Then, he deliberately stimulated the aura of his sword's soul within his arm bone. I've also learned the exquisite sword incantations of the 9 slashes that raise the heavens. Do you want to try it? Yu Yuan pointed the scabbard at Bertha, full of fighting spirit. Just you? Hu Kaiyun giggled. Do you know the situation? What gives you the confidence to come here and mess around? Just this. Bertha raised the scepter in her hand and unleashed her bloodline power. Rays of dazzling light suddenly shot out of the crescent moon and aimed at Dark Paradise's location. The stars in front of them and the cold land behind them bombarded them indiscriminately like thousands of arrows. A large area of stars was within range. Chapter 1033. The light of the waning moon crossed the stars and covered a wide area. At this moment, the Dark Paradise was being pulled by the magnetic field of the land not far away, unable to break free. Although the streams of moonlight couldn't reach the Dark Paradise in a single breath, it would be attacked by the moonlight because the Dark Paradise couldn't move. My Dark Paradise! Pattinson of the Shadow Race crouched down and used his bloodline to activate the concealment device under the continent. He wanted to escape his current predicament as much as possible. Bertha, who was holding the Moon Chaser staff high, snorted coldly. Moon pools flashed on the praying mat under her feet. In the next moment, many bright moon blades formed and flew toward Pattinson. They danced around him like butterflies. Pattinson's expression changed. He used the Shadow Race's unique bloodline secret art and left an afterimage where he was. The real him instantly appeared on a high platform and pressed a hand against an enormous stone pillar. He immediately disappeared into the stone pillar and used the opportunity to go deep into the continent. He ignored Bertha's attack and adjusted the concealment device under the ground to escape the large-scale moonlight attack. The Dark Paradise was his and his brother's life's work. Calf and Fernan only provided resources and wealth. As the creators, the two of them had much deeper feelings for the Dark Paradise than Calf and Fernan. Of course, they didn't want this continent to be seriously damaged. Have you gone mad? Hu Kaiyun expressed her surprise. The Moonlit Night Clan's clansmen also live on the land next to it. Some of the moonlight from the waning moon will definitely fall on that continent. Just like the Moonshine World, the land that was connected to the Dark Paradise was inhabited by the Moonlight Clan whose bloodline was not high enough and whose status was not high enough. As long as the moonlight fell, many of them would be affected and their souls would be scattered instantly. With her Mahasvara realm cultivation, she was able to see quite a few cities and towns from such a short distance away. The Moonlight People's clansmen lived in those cities. There will always be casualties in war. Bertha's cold voice didn't sound right. A vague shadow slowly floated out of her head. It looked like a terrifying demon, gradually showing its ferocious aura. Demon God! Hu Tsayun's expression suddenly changed. The Moonfiend clan was one of the otherworldly Skyfiends. A level 9 Skyfiend was a demon god, comparable to a human carefree realm expert. However, the ancient lunar demon hiding in Bertha's body had not refined a physical body. Or rather, this ancient lunar fiend actually shared a body with Bertha. No wonder he ignored the deaths of the Moonlight people. When Yu Yuan saw the demonic figure appear, he knew that no matter how kind this expert of the Moonlight People named Bertha had appeared in the past, and even taught Grace some exquisite secret techniques, she had long since been influenced by the ancient Moonlight People. They had become less concerned about the life and death of their fellow clansmen, especially when it came to Nye Qingtian, the moon-severing great cultivator. Nye Qingtian was the mortal enemy of all surviving Moonlight Devils. If his sword and his personal disciples were discovered by any ancient lunar fiend, they would do everything in their power to kill them. Leave it to me. Think about how to deal with the fallen moonlight. Hu Kaiyun glanced at Yu Yuan. Then, the sea of colorful clouds surging around her rushed towards Bertha and the prayer mat made of numerous moon pawns. The two of you only have one physical body. You can't be counted as two ninth-grade experts. At most, you're 1.5. She didn't seem to care at all. Suddenly, she waved her sleeve, and the sea of miasma rapidly flew towards Bertha. In the sea of clouds, the great monsters she had killed and refined, the experts of the human race, the mutated monsters of the Shura clan and the Banshee clan, as well as some brutal beasts of the galaxy appeared. It seemed that as long as she had killed and refined them, they would be able to reappear in heaven and earth in this way. You're full of that disgusting human aura. Bertha tapped the incoming miasma creatures lightly with the scepter in her hand. A gigantic moon energy blade cut down all the creatures in front of her. If you want to die so badly, I can satisfy your wish. A beam of blinding moon energy shot out of the moon chaser scepter and reached Lady Peach, who was standing in the sea of colorful clouds. Ha! In the depths of the turbulent sea of clouds, an incomparably dazzling peach tree that flowed with brilliant light appeared as Lady Peach laughed. The blinding moon energy was extinguished by the power of the peach tree before it could even get close to Lady Peach. She stood under the peach tree with a smile on her face. The Moonlight People's 9th-grade bloodline is nothing special. You might as well kill her and refine her into a complete devil god. She was talking to the ancient moon devil. You, a moon devil, can only be called a devil god if you refine this 9th-grade body of the Moonlight People. A fiend celestial without a body is too weak. It's really nothing. The peach tree grew healthily and shone with layers of light. It looked like the most wondrous treasure in the world. The ancient moon devil suddenly didn't dare to act recklessly after sensing the presence of the peach tree. He remained silent behind Bertha. At this time, Yu Yuan frowned slightly and looked towards the distant land. A familiar figure slowly flew out of the land, broke through the realm barrier, and entered the galaxy. Silver Moon Queen. Yu Yuan clearly sensed the presence of another ancient moon devil inside Li Yupan's body. Li Yupan had been in the Moonlight realm. With her own power and speed, there was no way she could have reached the Dark Paradise in such a short time. After thinking for a moment, Yu Yuan knew that he had received help from Bertha. The two women, one old and one young, were both possessed by moon devils. As my lord. The ancient moon devil behind Bertha suddenly became excited when the Silver Moon Queen arrived. A rank 9 devil god, an expert who had stayed in Bertha's body for thousands of years, was acting so humble and excited when the queen appeared. This meant that the ancient moon devil, who called herself Consort Yu and had fallen in Haurandu to a meteor, had a higher status than the one in Bertha's body. Gale? A question came from the crescent-shaped crystal between the Silver Moon Queen's eyebrows. My lord. It's me, I'm still alive. The ancient moon devil that flew out of Bertha's body shouted. It looked like it was about to charge out and worship the Silver Moon Queen. Yu Yuan, I really didn't want to see you in outer space. The Silver Moon Queen said and pointed at her forehead. Consort, you floated out and floated behind her. It was not wise for you to enter outer space so early. The dangers outside are greater than you think. Greetings, my queen. Yu Yuan bowed slightly and said with a smile, I ruined your plans in the barren Forgotten Lands. Don't blame me. P.S. Sorry, I drank too much yesterday and vomited until morning. I didn't write much today, so don't blame me if I don't update in the afternoon. Chapter 1034. The Silver Moon Queen, who was dressed in royal attire, wore a cold expression and did not smile. Facing Yu Yuan's mockery and insincere apology, her heart was as calm as an ancient well. Behind her, imperial concubine Moon slowly transformed. She turned into a woman wearing a silver dress that dragged to the ground. The dress was made in an elegant style, and the patterns on it were complex and exquisite. The woman was ancient, as if she had walked out of a painting. She gave off an ethereal feeling. Her eyes changed slightly, condensing into the shape of a strange crescent moon, which made her look very strange. "Greetings, my lord." The ancient moon devil called Garl's figure flashed and floated to the left side of the Silver Moon Queen. He did not look at Liu Pan and stared straight at Consort Yu. "I never thought that we would meet again." This ancient moon devil's expression towards the Silver Moon Queen was extremely disdainful. In his heart, the Silver Moon Queen was just Consort Yu's puppet. When Garl sensed the presence of his kind through Bertha, he did not expect it to be Consort Yu. He used Bertha's influence in this star system to let the Silver Moon Queen use a strange artifact to travel to the land next to the Moon Realm. Garl still did not know who was hiding inside the Silver Moon Queen's body. Because the current Moon Devil race had very few members, Garl would take care of his kind whenever he smelled them. Consort Yu had not recovered, and her aura was not strong enough. At first, Garl thought that it was just a young Moon Devil in a remote area of the race who was not strong enough. When the Silver Moon Queen broke through the realm barrier and appeared quickly, he realized that his kind was Consort Yu, the most talented person in the race who was most qualified to become a great demon god. If Nye Qingtian had not severed the moon back then, if Milord had not been in outer space, Milord would have become a great demon god a long time ago. Milord would have been a ruler like Grek and the other great demon gods. Gear thought to himself, "You've recovered the battle prowess of a demon god?" Consort Yu's expression was calm, and her posture was elegant and calm. She looked at Garl in front of her and the slightly reserved moonlight people Bertha beside him, and said softly. What surprised her was the relationship between Miguel and Bertha. Garl didn't try to hide anything. He lowered his head and said, "After Nye Qingtian cut the moon, our ancestral land fell apart. My lord, you seem to have disappeared in the universe with a piece of the moon because you were severely wounded. As for me, my soul was almost shattered. I had no choice but to entrust a wisp of my soul essence to a piece of moon and wander freely in the starry river." Many years later, Bertha, who had just reached adulthood, discovered that piece of moon and sensed my weak presence. She could have refined me and made me lose my last shred of consciousness completely, but she didn't. She didn't do that. She allowed me to recuperate in her body, allowing me to slowly advance with her. I accompanied her as she grew up and achieved what she has today with her. I'm sorry, but I can't devour her and refine her. Even if I can't become a complete demon god and lose the possibility of becoming a great demon god forever. When he said this, Garl's words were sincere and sincere. He was a demon god in the first place, through Bertha's Moonlight People's bloodline, and through many years of recuperation and refinement, the limit he could reach was his original level. If he wanted to become stronger, if he wanted to improve, he needed a body that was suitable for him. For example, Bertha's body, which he couldn't be more familiar with after spending so much time together. But he didn't do that. Did you hear that? Consort Yu was silent for a while. Her gaze was complicated as she asked softly. The Silver Moon Queen nodded slightly. The ancient Moon Devil race isn't completely devoid of humanity. Long ago, when the otherworldly demons were replaced as the rulers of the universe by the humans of Hauran, we changed with them. Consort Yu came from behind her and came to the front. She said, "I chose you. I made you. I also accompanied you as you grew. I see you as my successor, as my child. I don't want to destroy the pride I created with my own hands. Liu Pan was behind her. She bowed slightly and didn't say a word. Whoosh! Consort Yu walked past the Silver Moon Queen, the demon god Garl, and the Moonlight People's Bertha. She stood in front of Yu Yuan and Hu Kaiyun. Her crescent moon-shaped eyes finally looked at Yu Yuan and the scabbard in Yu Yuan's hand. There wasn't any extra expression or action, but everyone present could feel the hatred. This hatred wasn't directed at Yu Yuan. It was only because Yu Yuan had been recognized by the Sword Soul, held Nie Qingtian's scabbard in his hand, and practiced Nie Qingtian's sword arts. He's related to the Shenhun sect, the Silver Moon Queen reminded cautiously. Hu Caiyun's lips curled into a smile as she thought to herself, I guessed right. I know, Consort Yu replied coldly. The Shenhun sect, Pattinson Underground, Benin and Heart Far Away, and some of the bandits from the Dark Paradise seemed to have their blood flow stagnated when they heard these three words. White Crane, the owner of the White Crane, represented the Tongtian Trading Company. The Tongtian Trading Company alone was enough to make the three lords of bandits tremble in fear and Pattinson's scalp go numb. Right now, everyone in the vast universe knew that the biggest backer behind the Tongtian Trading Company was the Shenhun sect, and the Shenhun sect left an indelible impression in the minds of all the first-tier intelligent beings. The older the alien race experts were, the more they knew about the strength of the Shenhun sect. Right now, after the internal strife in the Howren, the Shenhun sect, which had been away for many years, officially announced their strength to the outside world, letting all the alien races in the universe know that they had returned. Not only did they return, but they also wanted to change the structure of the Howren and the situation of the entire universe with their new ideology. Even the current patriarchs of the Outer Realms, the patriarchs of the alien races, the Banshees, the Dark Spirits, and other powerful races had expressed their friendliness to the Shenhun sect and supported the Shenhun sect's new ideology in the universe. If Yu Yuan had something to do with the Shenhun sect, and Consort Yu dared to attack him, it was likely that the Shenhun sect, Bessa of the Night Moon clan and ancient Moon Maggle, who lived with her, were also shaken by what Queen of the Silver Moon had said. They were deeply frightened. Bertha was especially stunned. She was stunned for a moment, and then hesitation suddenly appeared in her eyes. Boom! Boom boom! The ground beneath their feet shook violently. The moonlight from the waning moon was gradually approaching. From the looks of it, it wouldn't be long before moonlight filled the sky and enveloped the dark paradise and the realms around it. Bertha! As the ancient Moon Maggle, a fierce look appeared in his eyes. I'm sorry. I can't do that. Bertha shook her head with a panicked and anxious expression. She waved the moon-chasing staff in her hand and didn't dare to look Maggle in the eyes. She waved it forcefully towards the sky. The river-like moonlight suddenly changed direction midway and was guided to another part of the universe. I am a member of the Moonlight People, one of the priestesses. I represent the Moonlight People. She had a sad and helpless expression. I can't bring disaster to my people. Because of the Shenhun sect, the moonlight that was supposed to fall on the Dark Paradise was no longer a threat. The sect master of the Howren Moon sect has the pure bloodline of the Moonlight People. She successfully ascended to godhood with the help of the Moonlight People and the Shenhun sect. In the future, she may even be able to raise the bloodline of the Moonlight People to rank 10. She can change the entire Moonlight People and turn the Moonlight People, who were originally at the 3rd rank, into one of the strongest races like the Heavenly Devils, Dark Spirits, Light Spirits, and Azura races. Bertha apologized as she revealed an earth-shattering secret. Yu Yuan and Lady Peach were shocked when they heard this. The most mysterious sect master of the Moonlight People's bloodline carried the bloodline of the Moonlight People. She relied on the Shunhun sect and the power of the Moonlight people to successfully ascend to godhood in the depths of the universe, just like Zuin. Her existence made the entire Moonlight people proud. A rank 10 strongest clansmen had a far-reaching influence. The bloodline of the Moonlight people, their status in the universe, and their bright future were all tied to her. She had single-handedly raised the Moonlight people from the 3rd rank to the 1st rank. She would definitely become a legend and myth that would be passed down forever in the universe in the future. No matter how close Bertha and Garl's relationship was, she was unwilling to kill Yu Yuan, who had the Shunhun sect's background, as the priestess of the Moonlight people. She couldn't bear this responsibility. If you really want to kill him, you can possess me and refine me. She looked at Garl and put down the moon-chasing staff. Her bloodline connection with the moon pools in her body was severed. She used her actions to show that she wouldn't resist or fight Garl to the death. It was as if she was willing to wait for death as long as Garl tried to possess her. ***, I will make up for it today. Chapter 1035. In the stars, the owner of the crescent moon, the priestess of the Moonlight people, Bertha, put down the moon-chaser's staff. Her expression was miserable as she bowed her head and allowed Gar to take over her body. Gar, who had lived in her body for many years, was all too familiar with her. As long as she did not resist, he could fuse with her in an extremely short amount of time and achieve true demon god-level combat strength. A rank 9 demon god of the ancient moon demon race, who had the body of a Moonlight people of the same level, was not someone Rani of the Shadow race or Kaf, the bandit of the Moonlight people, could compare to. After all, the heavenly demons were a super race at the top of the ladder in outer space. You! Gar glared at her with a complicated expression of love and hate. His towering figure continued to tremble, but he didn't actually make a move. Yu Yuan sneered and said in a strange tone, I didn't think that you, a moon demon race descendant, would fall in love with a woman of the Moonlight people. TSK, I finally believe that the rumors are unreliable. Who said that the ancient moon demon race would only view the men and women of the Moonlight people as livestock and lambs? At this moment, Garl was clearly looking at Bertha with eyes filled with deep love. It wasn't love, it wasn't pity. Instead, it was a man's beautiful feelings for a woman. It was a deep love mixed with possessiveness. If it wasn't for his deep love, Gar, the ancient moon demon god, would have taken the opportunity to take over Bertha's body a long time ago. With Bertha's Moonlight people bloodline, he would continue to refine the moon demon's secret arts, gather the purest moon energy from the crescent moon, and use the moon demon method to refine his soul and body. If that happened, not only would Gar recover his strength, he would become even stronger. In fact, it would establish the foundation for him to become a great demon god in the future. Shut up! Gar was unusually furious. Many dark demonic shadows appeared from Gar's soul body and stretched towards the surroundings like the giant tentacles of a monster. Many of the light sources in Dark Paradise seemed to be affected and changed in response to Gar's mood. But Bertha of the Moonlight people still had her head down and did not say a word. She heard Yu Yuan's teasing but didn't show any reaction. This also showed that Garl's love for her was something she was well aware of. That was why she was never afraid that the devil in her body would one day refine her, devour her, and use her body and form to walk between heaven and earth. How touching! Lady Peach's smile was also very annoying. She looked at Bertha for a while, then at Garl for a while, and then at Consort Yu and Silver Moon Queen with a malicious gaze. Liu Pan, you should be careful too. Look at these ancient moon devils from the outer realms. None of them look right. The one in your body might also be in love with you. Both of you are women, so disgusting. She waved her hand disdainfully, as if she wanted to wave something dirty away from her eyes. The moment he said this, the Silver Moon Queen's expression turned cold and stiff. Imperial concubine Moon's eyes also widened. You provoke them. You deal with them. Yu Yuan laughed dryly. He turned his head and saw beams of moon power streaking across gray paradise like meteors. The vast amount of moon energy contained within the shooting stars shook his heart. He knew that if these beams of refined moon energy struck the dark paradise, the king of bandits' residence would be destroyed. Even if he could take advantage of this opportunity to leave, after losing Gray Paradise, his journey to the domain of annihilation would be greatly delayed. Garl, go and kill Yu Yuan. Leave that bitch-a-woman to me. Consort, you let out a soft whistle. A figure suddenly flew out of the distant land. It was the extremely elegant king of bandits, Kaf. He also had the bloodline of the Moonlight people. With the help of the Silver Moon Queen, he had used a hidden passage and tools to reach this place. Now, he had finally arrived. Who killed Lambing? When Kaf approached, the array inside the destroyed Golden Trident started operating again. The Golden Trident suddenly glowed for a moment, and then the light faded. This item was summoned by Kaf. It wanted to escape Gray Paradise and return to Kaf's hand, but because it was too damaged, it couldn't achieve its goal. It's me. Yu Yuan grinned. Looking at the king of bandits, who he had only heard of, and then looking at Consort Yu, he knew what was going to happen next. Poor guy. Li Yupan. Who are you? Before Kaf entered Gray Paradise, he first noticed the Silver Moon Queen, and then Consort Yu, who was wearing a long dress that dragged down to the ground in front of the queen. Fear and trembling appeared in the depths of his heart and bloodline. This made Kaf realize that he had probably encountered his natural enemy. The Moonlight people had been enslaved by the ancient Moon Devil for tens of thousands of years. The seed of fear was branded in their bloodline. Once they encountered it, they would uncontrollably activate it. Moon Devil. There are two of them? After Kaf knew what had happened, he didn't dare to think too much. He didn't even care about the death of his son, Lambing. He turned his head and tried to escape as quickly as possible. Then he found that the bloodline of the Moonlight people in his body was completely suppressed. He stood in the air, dazed and motionless. Consort Yu lifted her dress and floated into the sky. Her crescent-shaped eyes shone brightly, and countless mysterious crescent-shaped symbols flowed out of them. The bright moon-shaped symbol fell towards Karf like a chain that could restrain a soul. The crescent-shaped symbols entered Kaf's body first. His soul and bloodline seemed to have been forced to change masters, and he could no longer control himself. Then, Imperial Concubine Moon entered the space between his eyebrows, controlling his soul and controlling his body. A moment later, Kaf's eyes turned into a strange crescent shape. He jerked the corner of his mouth and gave a slightly strange smile. They both had rank 9 bloodline, but this bandit king of the Moonlight people was powerless against Consort Yu. In a short time, Consort Yu entered his soul and started to take over his body. Whoosh! Imperial Concubine Moon, who had forcefully taken over Karf's body, returned to the dark paradise. She first nodded at Li Yulong, giving her an expression that said there was no need to worry. Then, she gently flew towards the colorful sea of clouds where Madame Peach Blossom was. During this process, Kaf's bloodline gave off a sizzling sound. His skin, bones, organs, and hair were all changing slightly. He was becoming more and more like Consort Yu. Kaf's masculine features disappeared in a short time. What replaced them was a swollen chest, a thin waist, a smooth face, and longer eyelashes. The strange changes in front of them stunned Yu Yuan and Lady Peach. They felt their hair stand on end. As Imperial Concubine Moon's soul entered Karf's body, he began to rapidly change. From a man, he began to transform into a woman with clear feminine characteristics. This is a complete refinement, a true possession? Yu Yuan frowned. He couldn't help but look at Bertha, who had her head lowered. He thought if Garl also took over Bertha's body, Bertha would turn from an old granny into an old man? Go to hell! Gar let out a fierce roar as countless light blades made of pure moon energy and soul power shot towards Qin Lai's face. This ancient moon devil god turned into a beam of dim light and flew straight towards Yu Yuan's small world in her mind, as if he wanted to use the method he was best at to break Yu Yuan's mind and soul first. Don't go into his mind. At this time, Consort Yu, who had stepped into the colorful cloud sea, seemed to remember something terrifying. She hurriedly warned Garl, "Don't enter his mind with your soul." She and the Silvermoon Empress had entered the Platinum Azura's small world in the eye of the barbarian Azura. She still remembered that she had seen an enormous illusory soul come out of Yu Yuan's soul. Even now, she still didn't understand what that enormous illusory soul was, why it was in Yu Yuan's body, and what level of power it possessed. However, every time she thought of that scene, she felt powerless. She didn't want Garl to repeat her mistakes. Chapter 1036. Outer Realm Heavenly Devils were skilled in transformation and profound soul art. Most of them would attack their enemies' souls out of habit. Garl, who didn't have a fleshly body and was in a pure soul state, could perfectly utilize the Heavenly Devil's advantage in this aspect. He felt that as long as he could get close to Yu Yuan and enter the Soul Wander realm, Yu Yuan's mind, he could easily kill Yu Yuan's Een soul, heavenly soul, and true soul with the many soul arts he knew. He had been so confident, but when he heard Consort Yu's exclamation, Garl hesitated. On the other hand, Yu Yuan grinned. His smile made Garl's soul feel cold, and he instinctively felt uneasy. Clang! Yu Yuan's heavenly constellation shield suddenly appeared. Garl used his moon power and soul power to block all the light blades that came at him. Yu Yuan wasn't hurt at all. At the same time, he secretly cast the great Een soul art on Garl, who was in his soul form. The Een soul in Garl's mind suddenly transformed into a terrifying vortex that could devour all souls and evil beings in the world, producing a devilish suction force. The Shunhun sect's many exquisite soul arts were created to deal with outer realm heavenly devils. The realm passageway that connected to the demonic abyss of calamity was often opened, and the heavenly devils were allowed to enter it so that the disciples of the Shunhun sect could refine their soul arts. As for the miraculous aspects of the great Een soul technique, he had already repeatedly verified it outside Qing Luan City and on other occasions. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh! Garl, who was in his soul form, suddenly felt the world spin. A magnetic field that made him want to sink into it came from Yu Yuan's mind, where he had been trying to enter earlier. Garl's mind was blank, and he couldn't help but fly towards Yu Yuan. Garl! Consort Yu let out another devilish shriek that pierced straight into his soul. As if he had been stabbed by a sharp sword, Gur suddenly woke up and found that his soul was about to step into the center of the halo of the Big Dipper shield. At this moment, Garl was deeply shaken. He finally believed Consort Yu's words. He immediately decided to retreat. Yu Yuan, who was holding the scabbard, casually drew out a crimson sword aura. Soul-breaking slash! The moment the sword light was formed, a soul-destroying sword intent seemed to descend into the depths of Garl's soul, causing him to recall the fear of being dominated by Nye Qingtian all those years ago. Garl recognized the soul-severing slash, and knew how many moon demons of his race had died under this sword technique. Thus, he immediately retreated frantically. The crimson sword light chased after him relentlessly. Inside the mysterious sword light, one could vaguely see bits of Een sunflower essence. It was because of the essence of Een sunflower that Yu Yuan's soul-severing slash was so powerful that it had an unusual effect on all things that were in the form of spirit. Whoosh! The sword light still came, and Garl's shadow in the form of a spirit was cut in two. In just one exchange, Garl, an ancient moon demon expert, had suffered a heavy blow. The two halves of his shadow hurriedly fled back to Bertha's side. The sunflower essence inside the shadow in the form of a spirit could not be smelted away. It was still destroying his soul. Under the effect of the sunflower essence, Nye Tian's soul consciousness became blurry and muddled. He could faintly feel that the specks of sunflower essence were like sulfuric acid that targeted the soul. They were rapidly melting his soul, and before long, there would be nothing left of him. Bertha, help me! Help me get rid of those silver dots of light. Garl, who had shouted the loudest, revealed the silver specks of sunflower essence, while trembling. He begged Bertha to quickly help him melt away the sunflower essence. Bertha did not dare to kill Yu Yuan as the priestess of the Moonlight People, but she did not hesitate to save him. The moon altars and moon ponds under her feet immediately moved towards Garl. Garl understood. The two halves of his shadow abruptly shrank and entered two moon ponds. As if taking a bath, his soul shadow was completely immersed in the moon ponds. The water of the moon ponds gave off pure and holy energy that rushed into his shadow and attacked the sunflower essence. Soon, the moon ponds that his shadow was immersed in actually began to boil. Glug glug. The bits of sunflower essence caused the liquid in the moon ponds to reach the boiling point. When the moon energy quickly reached the bottom of the moon ponds, the sunflower essence was also being melted away. Garl's shadow trembled in extreme fear. What the hell was this? He screamed and howled in his heart. Even Nye Qingtian's soul-severing slash and the soul-destroying sword light had not been as terrifying as this. Why did the demonic shadow, which was in the form of a spirit, melt away the moment it touched that thing? Garl no longer dared to act rashly in the moon ponds. He did not dare to show himself and continue attacking Yu Yuan. He was truly afraid. Sunflower essence, soul-severing slash. Yu Yuan, who had succeeded in one strike, gripped the scabbard and smiled slightly. When he was in the land of terror, he knew that the sunflower essence hidden in the acupoints in his chest would unleash a power that even he was shocked by once it was combined with the soul-severing slash. This slash was effective against the souls and ghosts of the land of terror, and it was also effective against the pure soul form of the heavenly devils. The most miraculous sunflower essence in the land of terror came from the source of the veins deep underground. The source of the veins was the river of Hauran, the home of all dead souls. The sunflower essence condensed from the river had a miraculous suppressive effect on the soul form of the foreign object that he could not imagine. Garl, the demon god of the moon demon race, could not be considered a complete demon god because he did not have a refined body. Even so, when he used the soul-severing slash, it was impossible for Garl to be so miserable. It was all because of the sunflower essence. As he thought this, Yu Yuan's wisps of soul thought naturally went deep into the acupoints in his chest that had been opened by the sunflower essence and the sunflower essence. He could see that there was still a lot of sunflower essence in those acupoints. What a treasure! I have to be careful when using it in the future. When used with the soul-severing slash, the sunflower essence is a killing machine. He sighed and became excited. At the same time, Pattinson of the Shadow Race, who had been hiding underground earlier, appeared again. On the other side, in front of the square stone tower, the rank 8 Azura race warrior's expression changed slightly. He hurriedly said, "Elena, don't come out." He had been on guard and protecting Elena all this time. At this time, he felt that Elena's rank 8 bloodline had successfully completed its transformation. She was qualified to participate in the battle. However, the situation in the gloomy paradise was too dangerous and terrifying. There were 2 ancient lunar demons, who rarely showed themselves, as well as Bertha and the Silver Moon Queen. He did not wish for Elena to take any risk. In particular, Karf, who was also a bandit king, had rushed over in a threatening manner. But before he could even fart, he was seized by Imperial concubine Moon and turned from a man into a woman. He was afraid that disaster would befall the bad-tempered Elena. What happened? It's only been a while, how? Elena walked out of the stone tower in a daze. She looked around and did not know what had happened. When she found that Yu Yuan was fine and calm, she sighed in relief. It's like this, the Azura race warrior loyal to her father hurriedly explained, afraid that she did not know the situation. The man I like is so strong. Elena's eyes gleamed. When she heard that Yu Yuan had split Garl into two demonic shadows with a single slash of his sword and that Garl had been severely injured, she waved her fists excitedly and cheered with a face filled with pride. Your Majesty, Yu? After Yu Yuan's attack, he looked even more relaxed. He looked at Li Yupan with narrowed eyes and a smile. Do you want to help neither side, or fight side by side with Consort Yu? I heard that you saved Li Yuchan in the Land of Terror. The Silver Moon Queen hesitated and said, You also helped Li Yu? Yu Yuan smiled but did not speak. The Silver Moon Queen was silent for a moment and said, The present Yu is much stronger than I thought. You surprised me, and I am not confident that I can beat you. Also, the reason I was able to break through Howren's world was because Yen Qiling helped me in the Fallen Moon Forbidden Land. She looked at Consort Yu in the colorful clouds. Consort Yu has her own responsibilities and mission, and I am not her. What she meant was that she and Consort Yu were not one. Otherwise, Consort Yu would not have possessed Kaf and fought in his body. In the Moonlight Realm, she was not afraid of the rank 9 bandit King Kaf at all because Consort Yu was inside her body. Imperial Concubine Moon had clearly told her that as long as she made a move, with the natural advantage of her race, and the fact that the Moonlit Night Clan was only a third-tier race, Imperial Concubine Moon could easily possess Karf. Before Rani and Fernan arrived, Consort Yu was not in a hurry to act because she was afraid of alerting others. When Rani and Fernan appeared, one was a rank 9 Shadow Race expert, and the other was a Platinum Azura of the Azura race. She was not restrained by her Moon Devil innate talent, so she held back. She did not hold back just now because Rani and Fernan weren't here, and because Bertha and Garl, who had possessed Bertha, knew what was going on, and would help cover it up. Consort Yu treated Bertha and Garl as her own people. Your Majesty, it's better for everyone if you don't act. Yu Yuan bowed slightly to express his gratitude. Then, he summoned Consort Han, who was also an abomination. Consort Han was like an ice goddess. Her body was translucent, and she had a body that looked like a crystal of energy. Consort Han's body contained the extremely cold aura of the Dark Realm and the terrifying cold energy of the 9 Hells Frost Abyss. She was already at the late stage of the Sun God Realm, and now she had the support of 2 strange cold energies and a refined body. Her true combat strength was terrifying. I know that your Majesty is powerful, and I know that your Majesty has many tricks up her sleeve. Yu Yuan pointed at Consort Han beside him. If your Majesty can sit and do nothing, she won't do anything. Li Yupan's expression changed slightly. Yu Yuan had summoned Concubine Han to intimidate her so that she would be able to stand by and do nothing. I understand. Chapter 1037. The Silver Moon Queen slowly stepped back and stood at the edge of the gloomy paradise. The priestess of the Moonlight People, Bertha, was still helping Gar cleanse his Een sunflower essence with the refined moon energy stored in the moon pond. After she learned that Yu Yuan was related to the Shenhun sect, she didn't dare to act rashly. Yu Yuan turned his head and saw that the giant peach tree that belonged to Hu Kaiyun in the depths of the colorful sea of clouds was actually shaking peach blossoms. The gorgeous peach blossoms contained some kind of divine power, and their patterns were filled with evil vitality. After possessing Kaf, Consort Yu had completely transformed from a man to a woman. She had truly returned to her previous appearance. Her crescent moon-like eyes shone with a cold light that made people shudder. However, she was currently drowned in peach blossoms. The sky was filled with peach blossoms that surrounded her like an ocean. Rays of dazzling light shot toward her like blades. Crack, crack. When consort you waved her sleeves, the peach blossoms were crushed into powder and scattered in all directions. More peach blossoms grew out of the peach branches and continued to fly toward consort Yu. Yu Yuan used his blood energy and soul energy to sense the situation. The aura he sensed from the depths of each peach blossom was different. There was the crystallization of the blood energy of a great demon, the condensation of the soul of a human at the sun god realm, the chaotic violence of mutated monsters, and the bloodthirsty madness of foreign beasts. Hu Kaiyun, who had returned to the Freedom Realm, seemed to be able to extract and refine the remnant power of all the foreign objects refined in the colorful sea of clouds. Then, she fused it into the peach blossoms to attack her enemies. After careful observation, he realized that the battle between Lady Peach and Consort Yu wouldn't end anytime soon. Consort Yu was also extremely powerful. At this moment, she had yet to display her true strength in the depths of the colorful sea of clouds. She seemed to be still pondering the wonders of Kaf's bloodline and the artifacts and treasures he possessed. Bertha, right? Yu Yuan's attention suddenly fell on the old woman of the Moonlight People. He smiled and said, "Undo the restraints on the Dark Paradise. I'm in a hurry to go to the Annihilation Star System. I don't want to waste too much time." Pattinson of the Shadow Race had just activated some kind of secret device on the continent. However, he still couldn't free the Dark Paradise from the pull of the continent. The gloomy paradise was still being pulled, unable to move. If one stayed in this area for too long, it would be easy to be targeted by people with ulterior motives. Whether it was the humans and demons of the five supreme forces, or the regular army of the foreign races in the outer realms, knowing that the Dark Paradise was here, they might bring extra trouble. I only imprisoned the Dark Paradise of the Bandit King, not you, Bertha said angrily. What she meant was that as a priestess of the Yu Yi clan, she didn't have any psychological burden to deal with the rampant bandit. If Yu Yuan was dissatisfied, he could fly away and leave the Dark Paradise on his own. She was siding with Gear in another way that she thought was reasonable. Gar had been severely injured and poisoned by the Een sunflower essence. She was also hurt and wanted to vent her emotions. If you insist, with a thought, Yu Yuan summoned the dragon beheading platform and gently grasped the grayish-white stone with his empty hand. Under Pattinson and Elena's shocked gazes, Qin Lai suddenly broke through the fluorescent energy shield and stood in the middle of the universe filled with tainted power. He looked at the continent not far away from him, which was about the same size as the Moonlight Realm, and saw the bright silver realm barrier. The dragon beheading platform in his hand suddenly shone with strange light that looked like space-time rifts. The area in front of Yu Yuan seemed to be cut apart by the light. At the same time, many bottles that emitted strange poisons floated around Yu Yuan. The corks of the bottles were opened, and streams of toxic essence from the plants in the Nirvana spirit world fell towards the continent in the distance like streaks of light. Due to the appearance of the dragon beheading platform and the light that looked like space-time rifts, the bright silver realm barrier had become extremely fragile. When the toxic essence collected by the fiend devils was poured onto the continent, the moment it touched the bright silver realm barrier, it ignited as if it had been set ablaze. What are you doing?" Bertha panicked. The Silver Moon Queen's expression also changed. That stone and the strange poisons he collected in the Nirvana spirit world can melt the realm barrier of a small world. Benin of the Void Phantom race also couldn't sit still, his face pale. Don't do that. That continent will become another Nirvana spirit world. All the Moonlight people will either die or become mutant monsters. The Moonlight people who didn't have the right to go to the Waning Moon lived on the nearby continent and the Moonlight realm. Just like the human kingdom of the Howran, almost all the Moonlight people on that continent had bloodlines below rank 5. If they were corroded by tainted star energy, the result could be imagined. The nightmarish tragedy of the Nirvana spirit world would happen in the same way on that continent. Bertha, do you think that the realm barrier of this continent will still be able to restrain the gray paradise if it melts away? Yu Yuan smiled. Also, do you really want to see all the moonlight people on the continent that you nominally control die? No. I know what to do. The picture that Benin and Yu Yuan had painted, and what was about to happen, finally broke through Bertha's mental defenses. Her mind, which had been affected by Garl, returned completely due to fear. I'll let you go right now. The Moon Chaser's staff turned into a stream of light and fell towards the continent that also had towns and small kingdoms. The staff entered a mysterious area underground. Boom. Boom boom. Inside the land, after 3 extremely obvious tremors, the dark paradise, which had been motionless all this time, once again flew out like a wild horse. Yu Yuan smiled and did not continue his actions. He lightly landed on the gray paradise. That's more like it. He withdrew the dragon beheading platform and glanced at the continent that the gray paradise had passed. He said to Bertha, "Let me give you a kind suggestion. You should hurry over and repair that broken corner of the realm barrier. Otherwise, the crack will only grow bigger and bigger, and the people on that continent will still be in a terrible situation." Cold-blooded abyss devil. Bertha gritted her teeth and glared at him. A while later, she had no choice but to fly away from the gray paradise on the prayer mat made of moon pools. She did not even care about Garl's screams and roars. "Garl, we're no match for him. We can't kill him," Bertha explained in a low voice, looking very helpless. "Also, I don't want you to die at his hands. I want to fight by Lady Consort Yu's side." Garl screamed. She might not be able to win," Bertha muttered in a low voice. The moon pool prayer mat under her suddenly morphed into a cluster of moonlight that shot out of the gray paradise and landed in the sky above the broken realm barrier. The moon pools on the prayer mat instantly moved towards the crack. Dazzling moonlight poured out to repair it. She knew that Yu Yuan wasn't lying. If the poisonous flames in the crack continued to burn fiercely, the realm barrier of this continent would melt, and her moonlight people would probably all die. As the person in charge of this star field, it was hard for her to bear the responsibility. She would definitely be pursued to the end. Furthermore, she wouldn't be able to get over her own psychological hurdle. A long time passed. Rani, the Shadow Clan's leader, and Fernan, the Azura general, arrived on a small starship without any of their subordinates. "The gloomy paradise once stayed here," Rani said fearlessly as he stood in front of Bertha and said with a grim face, "I also noticed that you tried to destroy the ancient starship I built with the power of that waning moon. Lady Priestess, may I ask where the Grey Paradise and my younger brother are now?" Both he and Fernan had 9th grade bloodlines. Neither of them was afraid of Bertha. After going to great lengths to repair the cracked realm barrier, Bertha looked at the other 2 leaders of the bandits, who had finally arrived. After a moment of pondering, she said, "They went to the domain of annihilation. Where are you?" "My daughter was captured," Fernan said with a cold face. "My younger brother and the Grey Paradise were taken hostage," Rani said. Ancient Moon Magel had already returned to Bertha's body. The 2 of them quickly communicated. Soon, Bertha came to a decision. Looking at the starship they were on, she said, "It's not as fast as the Grey Paradise. It won't be able to catch up to them." Rani said, "I don't need you to remind me of that. I can help you." Bertha's will was slightly affected by Magel's words. "As you know, this part of the Starry River belongs to the Moonlight people. There are many sentinels and resources that we can use." Fernan went blank upon hearing these words. Bertha was a member of the regular army of the foreign races and the rightful priestess of the Moonlight people. A powerful figure like her should hate all bandit. However, Bertha's offer to help them made them feel that it was a trap. The one who took the Grey Paradise hostage is our common enemy, Bertha explained. Tell me about it, Ronnie said. On the Grey Paradise, which had resumed its voyage. Eyes narrowed, Yu Yuan glanced at the surging multicolored sea of clouds from time to time, and discovered that the battle between Lady Peach and Consort Yu had come to an end. Yu Yuan, I can destroy her moonlight people's bodies. Lend me a hand when her soul escapes. Lady Peach had witnessed how Yu Yuan had injured Maggle with his soul-severing slash. She believed that Consort Yu wouldn't be able to withstand such an attack if she didn't have her abyss devil body and was in the same soul form as Maggle. She wanted to work with Yu Yuan and kill Consort Yu in the Grey Paradise without paying a terrible price. Don't worry. As long as she doesn't have her abyss devil body and only has her soul form left, she won't be able to escape. Yu Yuan smiled and glanced at the fiend demon cauldron that was slowly floating out of the tower not far away. Not only that, she'll be refined by the fiend demon cauldron and become another powerful fiend demon. At this moment, he sensed Yu Yi's existence. He knew that after this period of refinement, Yu Yi's body had undergone an astonishing transformation. He didn't even need to think about it to know that Yu Yi had become even stronger. Other than Yu Yi, the other 4 powerful fiend demons could also accompany her in battle. Now that the cauldron soul had a physical body, there were 4 powerful fiendish demons that could act as the core of the array formation, and there was also Imperial Concubine Han. Yu Yuan did not believe that the ancient Moon Devil would be able to escape from his grasp. Even with the addition of the unknown Silver Moon Queen, Consort Yu would still die here. Yu Yuan Liu Pan, who hadn't left the Dark Paradise since the beginning, heard his conversation with Hu Kaiyun. Seeing his incomparably confident expression, she said with a troubled expression, "Can you do me a favor and let Consort Yu live? You know that she's not after you. She's after Nye Qingtian's scabbard and sword incantation. Let her go?" The corner of Yu Yuan's mouth twitched. The first time I went to the forbidden land of the falling moon, it was because of her remnant soul. Your Majesty, do you know that many trial-takers died because of her? The part of her that didn't break out of the forbidden land doesn't know a lot of things, the Silver Moon Queen explained. The Consort Yu that had stayed in the Forbidden Land didn't know what her other self was planning, but the Consort Yu inside the Silver Moon Queen knew everything. However, even if the Consort Yu inside the Empress knew everything, she wouldn't care. She was the most powerful expert of the ancient Moonlight Devils. The only person she cared about was Liu Pan, who carried the bloodline of the Moonlight people. She didn't care about the lives of other people or the people of the Silver Moon Empire. Can you do me a favor and let her live? Seeing that Yu Yuan was silent, Liu Pan pleaded again. There aren't many powerful experts left in the ancient Moonlight Devils, and the Shunhun sect has close ties with the foreign Heavenly Devils. You don't have to kill every last one of them. Yu Yuan wasn't used to the fact that the former Empress was begging him for the sake of a Moonlight Devil. He thought to himself, "Of course, I'll give you some information in exchange for her life," the Silver Moon Queen said. Chapter 1038. What news? Yu Yuan's interest was suddenly piqued. He believed that with the Silver Moon Queen's knowledge and realm, the news that she dared to exchange for Consort Yu's life must be extraordinary. Does it have anything to do with me? Liu Pan didn't say anything. Instead, she looked at the scabbard in Nye Tian's hand with a meaningful gaze. Yu Yuan immediately knew what was going on. At this time, Elena of the Azura race, Benin, Hart, and the others also looked at Nye Tian with astonished gazes, as if they were listening attentively. After a moment of hesitation, the Silver Moon Queen said in a slang of the Silver Moon Empire, "It's about the Desolation Forgotten Land, the Platinum Azura, the Dark Realm Cold Well, and the Heaven-Raising Sword." She wasn't sure if Yu Yuan could understand her, so she immediately looked at him with a deep gaze after she finished speaking. When she saw that Yu Yuan's expression had changed slightly, she calmed down and smiled. I thought that you wouldn't understand our slang since you used to be the medicine god. You know that I'm a reincarnated person too? Yu Yuan asked curiously. I've suspected that for a long time. Li Yupan nodded. Your performance in the Forbidden Land of Fallen Moon, Evil Wind Valley, and the Desolation Forgotten Land was simply too shocking. Back then, I suspected that you were possessed by a discarnate soul of a founding member of the Red Devil School. I thought you were the dead teacher of Autumn Boat Yuan. Who would have thought? She was obviously much more well-informed than Zhan Runan and the others. She already knew a lot about Howren. Before Yu Yuan had left that world, everyone knew that he was the medicine god Hanch in his previous life. It was no longer a secret. Li Yupan also learned about this through her channels. The two of them communicated in the slang of the Silver Moon Empire. The outsiders present who understood the common language of Howren were confused and didn't know what to do. Hu Kaiyun was also stunned. Drug god, can the information I just mentioned be exchanged for her life? The Silver Moon Queen asked. Yu Yuan thought about it and nodded. He was also very curious about the secrets of the Land of Wasteland, the Dark Domain Cold Well, and the Heaven-Raising Sword. As for Consort Yu, he shook his head inwardly. He didn't think that Consort Yu could really threaten him now. All right. Therefore, the Silver Moon Queen told him about the barren Forgotten Land and the Platinum Azura. The Platinum Azura, who had secretly arrived in Howren with a Dark Domain Cold Well, was the youngest son of the current Azura clan's Shura of Gojoseon. After experiencing the tempering of the Dark Domain, he became the youngest, most talented, and most powerful Platinum Azura. They both had a rank 9 bloodline, but he was much stronger than Elena's father, the Azura general called Fernan. He was the most powerful Platinum Azura in history. Back then, he had brought the Dark Domain Frigid Well to vast heaven and earth because he wanted to use his own power and the wonders of the Dark Domain Frigid Well to coordinate with the outside and use vast heaven and earth to communicate with the Dark Domain. In the most mysterious Dark Domain of the Azura race, his father, the Shura of Gojoseon, was personally overseeing it. The two of them were connected by blood. Once the terrifying power of the Dark Domain entered Howren through the Dark Domain Cold Well, the evil power of the Dark Domain, which was countless times more terrifying than the filthy power outside the universe, could kill all beings in Howren in an extremely short amount of time. The central world would be turned upside down because of this. The foundation of the human race was billions of mortals and endless cultivators. Once Howren was invaded by the evil power of the Dark Domain, all beings would be killed, and the world would be destroyed. Without the foundation, the prosperity of the human race and the demon race would cease to exist. Knowing that this was about to happen, Nye Qingtian used the scabbard of his heaven-raising sword to pierce through the head of the Platinum Azura, nailing him to the barren, abandoned land. As for the blade of the heaven-supporting sword, it followed the vine to the melon and entered the Dark Domain from the Dark Domain Cold Well. In the Dark Domain, the sky-raising sword severely injured the Shura of Gojoseon. After this battle, the sky-raising sword sank into the Dark Domain and hadn't returned yet. Outside, many of the rumors and legends related to the Sword of the Mighty Heaven were false. They were just rumors. After the scabbard nailed the Platinum Azura's head, it gradually refined the Dark Domain Cold Well to prevent the Platinum Azura, who knew that he was going to die, from self-detonating and causing the Dark Domain Cold Well to collapse and allow some of the Dark Domain's evil power to enter. Even a part of the Dark Domain's evil power was extremely harmful and had far-reaching effects. This was the reason why the Platinum Azura's evil soul hadn't died yet. He felt that there was still a chance of survival, a chance of rebirth, so he didn't give up and die. Later, due to various reasons, the Dark Domain Cold Well was obtained and refined by the Grand Elder of the Frost Een sect. No matter what the Grand Elder's motives were, he had solved a hidden problem by refining the Dark Domain Cold Well. The three high sects knew about it, but they didn't pursue it. Liu Pan and Shen Feiqing accidentally learned of the secrets of the abandoned land and were misled into thinking that there was another world that could help them refine their yang spirits faster. Therefore, they worked together to explore in secret and fell deeper and deeper. I only learned the truth from an Azura expert after I went to the Starry River to seek confirmation from various experts. I will take you back to the Moon Gem Realm. Kaf's treasures in the castle are all in my mind. You need those things to continue to grow stronger. I also need to refine this body using the ancient moon demon's methods. She didn't say if she wanted to continue her revenge, or what to do next. The Silver Moon Queen looked at Yu Yuan. Yu Yuan nodded slightly. I will accept whatever she chooses in the future. Today, Consort Yu couldn't do anything to him after possessing Kaf. He believed that Consort Yu wouldn't be a threat to him in the future. The next time they met, Consort Yu would be defeated even more miserably. You can refine Kaf's body using the ancient moon demon's method. I am also rapidly increasing my strength. Why would I be afraid of you, a moon demon on the verge of extinction? Yu Yuan laughed coldly on the inside. Perhaps it won't be long before we meet again. As for the Annihilation Starfield, if there's time, I'll go and join in the fun. After saying this, Queen Silvermoon and Imperial Concubine Moon left the gloomy paradise together. Elena was very smart. She suddenly flew over and looked expectantly at Yu Yuan. The secret you mentioned just now, does it have something to do with the Azura race? When Yu Yuan and Liu Pan talked, they would occasionally look at her. This gave her an idea. On the other hand, Hu Kaiyun, who understood the Silver Moon Empire's slang, had a blank look on her face the entire time when the two were talking. She pretended that she didn't understand anything and was still trying hard to suppress Imperial Concubine Moon's expression. When your father comes, I will talk to him. Yu Yuan nodded. You can sit in and listen. Elena said with a smile, okay. At the edge of a cold, desolate river of stars. Guided by Bertha of the Moonlit Night Clan, the small starship sped through the void, following a new route. Fernand and Ronnie weren't in the cabin. They were sitting outside. The two notorious bandit kings were muttering to each other on the way. They felt that the route Bertha had given them was strange, and wondered if Bertha had set them up. Until, when the two of them passed by the ruins of a starship, they suddenly heard an ear-piercing cry of a crane. Their faces instantly stiffened. Then, they saw a huge white crane cut the destroyed starship into several pieces with its blade-like wings. It spread the aura of death, and its beady eyes looked coldly at the two bandit kings who had appeared out of nowhere. Why are you in such a hurry to annihilate the domain of annihilation? The aura of death spread out from the destroyed starship and spread to every corner of the Starry River. Fernand and Ronnie looked closely and realized that the dead outsider experts in the starship were all regular soldiers. They were radical outsider warriors who stood on the side of the Blood Demon High Chieftain and the Shura of Gojoseon against the Shunhun sect and the Tongtian Trading Company. Where is the Grey Paradise? The White Crane asked coldly. As he spoke, he transformed into a graceful man wearing a grayish-white feathered cape. The White Crane's face was sickly pale, and his eyes were more white than black. He also liked to look at people with drooping eyes. He was full of evil. Where are we? Ronnie's heart trembled. We're about to arrive at the domain of annihilation. The ones I just killed were explorers with ill intentions. The White Crane spat on the ground. Pooh! I invited you here, but you didn't want to come. Why did you have to sneak in without anyone noticing? You deserve to die. Upon hearing that they were about to enter the domain of annihilation, Ronnie and Fernand looked at each other in amazement. Although the voyage Bertha had given them was strange, it did allow them to enter the domain of annihilation at an unimaginable speed, even faster than the Grey Paradise. Ahem! Ronnie of the Shadow Race laughed dryly and clasped his hands in Howran etiquette. He said, "We're in a hurry to get in. The Grey Paradise is right behind us. My younger brother and his daughter are in charge of controlling it. My lord, the Grey Paradise will enter the domain of annihilation in 10 days at most." "That's good." Chapter 1039. At a corner of the galaxy. Meteors of different sizes were scattered all over the place. Rock people's corpses were scattered all over the meteors. This small group of meteors was powered by the corpses and blood of the stone skins as it floated through the universe. A golden crag beast the size of a lion was crouching on each meteorite. The golden stone beasts of Howran were violent and warlike. They liked to feed on rock people, and the flesh of rock people was the best food for them to strengthen their bloodline power. There was a golden stone beast on a larger meteor at the center of the cluster. It was smaller in size, but it was the most mysterious of all. In the dark space, his entire body released bright golden light. Wisps of golden blood energy filled his body like fine hairs. Right now, the heavenly water sword Yumu, Jean Runan, Sun Jun, and many cultivators from the Tianyuan continent and Tranquil continent were surrounding it. The Annihilation star system is huge. We're only at the tip of the iceberg. The golden stone beast with a rank 9 bloodline spoke in the human language. Soon, the invited foreign races will be coming to the Annihilation star system from different regions. All we need to do is figure out how many foreign races have chosen to ally themselves with the Tongtian Trading Company and the Shenhun sect. The rank 8 golden stone beasts on the nearby meteors were all his trusted subordinate. They were the elites of the demon race. They had been watching the group of rock people coming to the Annihilation star system for a long time. When they were about to charge into the Annihilation star system, the golden stone beasts suddenly appeared and slaughtered them all. At this time, they were enjoying the taste of the rock people's flesh and telling them the purpose of their trip. Jean Runan listened quietly. She knew that the area they were in wasn't in the same direction as the edge of the domain of annihilation, where the Grey Paradise would come into contact with. After meeting up with some evil cultivators from the Tranquil continent, she seriously interrogated them and finally understood what happened in Howran. Yuyuan was the reincarnation of the medicine god Haunch Haunch. It was in the forbidden land of the fallen moons that he had sabotaged the 5 supreme forces cleansing of the outsiders that had set foot in Howran. Only after the great demonic god Grek had shown up did Yuyuan hastily disappear into the realm passageway with the 2 dragon beheading platforms in hand. Jean Runan also knew about Zhu An's apotheosis, Li Tianxin's death, and the Aragami's departure from the Great Swamp. For the first time in the Forbidden Lands, the Aragami expressed his stance. He was on the same side as the Shenhun sect. The Aragami, Zuan, the Moon Sect Master who was sealed as a god in outer space, and perhaps the ghost god White Bones. 4 Divine Thrones experts, the Shenhun sect's strength, and the Tongtian Trading Company's cooperation made this force truly qualified to challenge the 5 supreme forces. In Howran, the 5 supreme forces had already retreated from the forbidden land of the fallen moons. Rumor had it that the Shenhun sect's god king had officially moved in. The Blood God, the Star Luna sect, the Ancient Desolate sect, the Thunder Sky sect, and other sects had all cut ties with the 5 supreme forces and chosen to stand on the same side as the Shenhun sect. The internal situation was chaotic. What if we run into that white crane? What about the Tongtian Trading Company and the Shenhun sect? Yumu asked. We'll try not to fight it head-on for now, the rank 9 golden stone beast said solemnly. As a member of the Goblin Temple, even though he was full of hostility towards the white crane, who had successfully entered the 9th level after entering outer space, he was also very wary of it. The White Crane's bloodline was special, and the death power it had comprehended gave him a headache. Meanwhile, the master of the White Crane, the first foreign elder of the Tongtian Trading Company, was likely to enter the nascent soul stage in the near future, just like President Li. "We're just here to gather information?" Jean Runin asked for confirmation. "Yes." The Golden Stone Beast nodded. "Let's find out who the Tongtian Trading Company and the Shenhun sect are in the Annihilation Star System, and how many outsider experts have been invited to this place. We'll wait for further orders as to what to do with the bigwigs." "Got it." In the gray paradise that soared in the dark universe, Yu Yuan's Yin spirit communicated with Yu Yi in the small world inside the cauldron. He learned that the fiendish demon cauldron's power had increased as her body was refined. He also saw a well behind Consort Han, who was on the 9th step inside the cauldron. That well had been brought into Howren from outer space by the cold Yin sect's great elder Ruan Fu, the platinum azura of the Desolation Ruins. He had tried to use that well in himself as a channel to guide the evil energy of the dark domain into Howren and destroy all life in Howren. She's reforged and refined the dark domain cold well. "Will there be any problems?" Yu Yuan asked worriedly. Ruan Fu's avatar and the dark domain cold well were being refined by Consort Han. He had only asked this question because he had learned the secret from Empress Silvermoon. "There won't be any problems. Don't worry, Master." Yui pursed her lips into a smile and said, "Concubine Han is still refining that Grand Elder's residual power and this dark realm cold well. When she's done, she'll succeed and reach the 10th step." The 10th step? Yu Yuan was slightly shocked. The 10th step was the limit a fiendish demon could reach. It was second only to the cauldron soul Yui. He had heard from Yui that the fiendish demon cauldron had a total of 12 powerful fiendish demons at its peak. They were all on the 10th step and possessed power comparable to a Freedom Realm expert. MN, Consort Han will be the first fiendish demon to reach the 10th step. I'm also looking forward to the miraculous transformation when she fully recovers her consciousness and remembers everything, but remains loyal to us. Yui looked at Consort Han. At that time, she'll be unusually strong. Compared to the 12 powerful fiendish demons of the past? Yu Yuan was curious. Maybe she'll be stronger than any of them. She'll gather the frost energy of the 9 hells, frigid abyss and the dark domain. If she can merge them into one. Yui pondered for a moment. She'll be stronger than the 12 fiendish demons of the past. Yu Yuan's expression became somewhat expectant when he heard this. He couldn't help but look at Yellow Lantern Demon, Silver Sual, Armor Breaker, and Black Woman. The 4 of them? They should be able to reach the 9th step after a while, but not now. Yui said with some regret. If that fiendish demon called Blood Moon hadn't been damaged by Grek's enslavement, he would have reached the 9th step already. Blood Moon should have followed Consort Han and become the second fiendish demon to reach the 10th step. It's a bit of a pity. While saying this, Yu Yuan's Yin spirit tempered his soul body with the power of the fiendish demon inside the cauldron. Recently, his Yin spirit often left his body and moved around inside the cauldron. Sometimes it cultivated in silence, and sometimes it wandered around the steps, sensing the different fiendish demons, their violent auras, and their mad desire to kill. He cultivated in this way and continued to break through to the soul wander realm. Moreover, he found that he benefited a lot. It seemed that his Yin spirits wandering inside the cauldron, sensing the fiendish demons, gathering their auras, and comprehending their mysteries could really speed up his cultivation in the soul wander realm. His Yin spirit also seemed to have become clearer and more solid. Don't risk going to the dark domain before you reach the Freedom Realm. On the platform outside, Lady Peach sat cross-legged and looked at Yu Yuan on the platform next to hers. She spoke in the slang of the Silver Moon Empire. The Empress might not have told you the secret of the heaven-raising sword out of kindness. The Azura race's mysterious dark domain is said to be eternal darkness and coldness. It has always been a forbidden zone for all living beings. Other than the Azura race, almost all the experts of other races who explore the dark domain never return. Although you have many treasures, don't go to the dark domain too early for the heaven-raising sword. She persuaded him patiently and patiently. Yu Yuan nodded slowly. Don't worry. I don't have any desire for the heaven-raising sword right now. Not to mention the dangers of the dark domain, he hadn't even comprehended the 9 slashes of raising heaven. Of course he wasn't in a hurry to find that legendary sword. There's a warship in front of us. Suddenly, Pattinson, the Shadow Race clansman who stood at the edge of the continent most of the time, shouted with a nervous expression, "The Star Race! It's a warship of the Star Race!" The Star Race? Yu Yuan stilled. A warship of the Star Race isn't just fast, it has fierce firepower. Pattinson moved to a high platform and used his bloodline secret art to sense. They should be invited to the Annihilation star domain like us. However, our identities are sensitive and they might not know. I'm worried. As he spoke, the high platform at the center of the tower blossomed with silver light. What are you worried about? Hu Kaiyun asked with a smile. I'm worried that they'll attack us without asking any questions. Pattinson had a bitter expression on his face. If they recognize that this is the Grey Paradise, they'll. Normally, the Dark Paradise, which the 3 lords of the bandits had gathered, would do their best to avoid the outsiders' joint forces. Once they came into contact with them, the outsiders' joint forces wouldn't show them any mercy. Pattinson activated the defensive power inside the high platform. The streaks of light and fireflies that enveloped the Dark Paradise became much richer. However, the speed of the gloomy paradise slowed down because of this. On a streamlined ancient starship, the hull of which was decorated with countless crystals of various colors, a handsome young Star Race clansman in an ancient, complicated starry robe was surrounded by a few old Star Race clansmen. They gazed into the distance and talked in low voices. We'll arrive at the domain of annihilation in about 10 days. The Tongtian Trading Company must be very generous. I heard that the Shunhun sect and the Tongtian Trading Company single-handedly orchestrated Li Tianxin's death. Li Tianxin was a senior nascent divinity expert of the primal Yang sect. His death already proves the Shunhun sect's attitude. Sigh, I wonder if that old brother of mine, Beirut, survived in the vast world. The old Star Race clansman's heart sank as he thought about the perilous situation at hand. Whoosh! An elegant young Star Race clansman in a tailored, light green dress suddenly flew over. There's a continent coming towards us at an extremely fast speed. It looks a lot like the legendary Dark Paradise. The Dark Paradise! The old Star Race clansman, who looked somewhat similar to Beirut, snorted with a grim expression. Do those 3 bandits dare to offend us? Kaf, Rani, and Fernan are all at the 9th grade, but they rarely work together. Another old Star Race clansman turned around to look at the dim starry river. Starlight suddenly appeared in his eyes, and the starship they were on seemed to shine brightly as well. I don't sense the auras of those 3 bandits. There's only one powerful one. It's a human. He sensed Lady Peach's existence from afar. A cultivator who has reached the Freedom Realm, he said. He might be one of the evil cultivators in Vast Sea who recently made deals with the King of Bandits, Nie Tian concluded. Let's wait for them to come closer and see how strong they are, the handsome young Star Race clansman said. As soon as he spoke, the old Star Race clansman didn't say anything else. After all, he was the one with the highest status. Shortly after, under Pattinson's careful control, the Dark Paradise, which had fully activated its defensive power, approached the Star Race's starship at an extremely slow speed. When they were close enough, Elena suddenly raised her voice and shouted, "What are you looking at? We were invited to the domain of annihilation to participate in that meeting." How can bandits be qualified to be invited by the Tongtian Trading Company? The young Star Race clansman frowned. The materials and resources the bandits took belonged to our races. On the starship, the other Star Race clansmen, regardless of their age, looked at them with disgust. Beirut. The handsome young Star Race clansman suddenly shouted in pleasant surprise when he noticed the young spirit girl behind a high platform. Chapter 1040. Wilson. Beining walked out from behind the high platform. Looking at the young man of the Star Clan from a distance, he nodded to him with a calm face, which could be considered as a greeting. "It's him." Heart of the Silver Scale race looked gloomy when he saw the handsome Star Race youth. Wilson, who was dressed luxuriously, was surrounded by a few powerful experts of the Star Race like stars surrounding the moon. Be it in terms of appearance, bloodline grade, or race, Wilson was far superior to him. He also knew that this Star Race young man named Wilson had a crush on Benin. Compared to Wilson, Hart felt a little inferior, and his mood became gloomy for no reason. Long, prismatic crystal pillars with dazzling star energy were displayed on the battleships of the Star Race like cannons. The spearheads were aimed at Grey Paradise. A few Star Spirit elders fixed their eyes on the dark paradise with malicious gazes. Star Dome Cannon. Seeing that the prismatic crystal pillars were all facing the dark paradise, Pattinson's heart shuddered violently, and he hastily focused his attention on the Star Race starship. Pattinson was terrified. His forehead was covered in sweat, and he couldn't sit still. He was truly afraid. "Stop!" An old man of the Star Race scolded loudly, ordering the dark paradise not to move forward. Pattinson weighed the pros and cons. Then, with a bitter expression, he used a bloodline secret art to stop the dark paradise, which was already moving slowly. The star energy blast of the Star Dome Cannon isn't something this continent's defenses can withstand. "Ah, I should have avoided it," he explained helplessly to Yu Yuan. The Dark Paradise's advantage was its speed, but its defensive abilities weren't outstanding. It would only take a short while for it to be reduced to pieces by the Star Dome Cannon. Yu Yuan nodded and shot Benin a glance. "Do you know him?" "Kind of." Benin was honest. "Wilson is a noble of the Star Race. His Coleman family once had a rank 10 Star Race expert. In any highly intelligent race, as long as a family had produced a rank 10 expert, they would have a transcendent status. Because this means that there is hope for another rank 10 expert to appear among the descendants of this family," she explained briefly. Although Wilson's ancestor died in the hands of Howren's demonic phoenix, the Coleman family still has a strong foundation in the Star Tribe. The Star Race thought that Wilson had the potential to enter rank 10 bloodline in the future. "I met him once a few years ago, but we're not particularly familiar with each other." She had met Wilson in a non-human auction house. Wilson's outstanding performance had attracted her attention. However, at that time Wilson already had a rank 8 bloodline. The Star Clan was the first rank alien race in the outer star area. Wilson was born in a noble family, and his innate talent wasn't ordinary. He was in the limelight in that auction. As for her, she had been recommended by the elders of her clan, and she was a rare void spirit. Therefore, Wilson remembered her. Wilson also showed some admiration for her, but he did not actively pursue her, nor did he display any particularly ardent desire. Later, she learned from the elders of her clan that her bloodline was only at rank 7, and her innate talent was limited. The experts behind Wilson had concluded that the limit of her bloodline was only rank 8, and that it would take her several hundred years to reach rank 8. That was the limit of her lifetime. Wilson had thought that Benin wasn't good enough for him, so he had left it at that. Benin had never felt anything for Wilson, but after learning the truth, she still felt uncomfortable. She couldn't believe that she and Wilson would run into each other here after so many years. Long time no see. Wilson, who was tall and handsome, flew out of the magnificent ancient starship and sailed across the starry river towards the gray paradise. The star-dome cannons adjusted their angles and aimed at the gloomy paradise. Pattinson felt as if he was sitting on pins and needles, and his mood was extremely tense. He was afraid that the star vault cannons would accidentally fire and spew out terrifying star energy that would cause the dark paradise to explode. As soon as Wilson moved, the old men of the Star Tribe hurried to follow him. This guy. Benin noticed the obvious excitement in Wilson's eyes, and felt that something was amiss. Soon after, she noticed that the elders of the Coleman clan who accompanied Wilson were looking at her as if they were looking at a treasure. Benning suddenly realized what was going on. Back when she had been a rank 7 void spirit, the limit of her bloodline had been determined to be rank 8. However, only a few years later, she had broken through her bloodline limit and become a rank 8 void spirit at a young age. In terms of the void spirit's age, she was very, very young. This meant that she had a good chance of advancing to rank 9 bloodline. A rank 9 void spirit was an extraordinary existence to any intelligent race. They would be treated as honored guests and recruited with all their might. It seems that they think I'm worthy of him and worthy of being treated seriously. Benin snorted inwardly. Pattinson didn't dare to resist. He simply allowed the experts of the star race, led by Wilson, to break through the fluorescent energy shield and arrive at the gray paradise where they were. Humans from Hauran? The old man from the Star Tribe, who had signaled for the dark paradise to stop earlier, didn't even spare a glance at the others as soon as he landed on the ground. His eyes were fixed on Hu Kaiyun and Yu Yuan. The other Star Race clansmen also changed expressions and became wary. Yu Yuan stood on a high platform and restrained his aura and soul thought. However, he could still sense wisps of cool soul energy appearing above his head and chest. He knew that the Star Race clansmen had been secretly investigating him and Hu Kaiyun when they came. He jerked the corner of his mouth and felt a little strange. The Star Race experts who were publicly acknowledged as the top rank had come to the Grey Paradise and ignored Pattinson of the Shadow Race, Elena of the Azura Race, and Hart of the Silver Scale Race. They only showed special attention to him and Hu Kaiyun because they were from the human race. This meant that the human race was more terrifying in their eyes. The human race was the nightmare of the foreign races in the outer realms. He smiled. Kaf, where are Fernan and Rani? Seeing that Yu Yuan and Hu Kaiyun were smiling without saying anything, the older Star Race expert, who possessed a level 9 bloodline, turned his gaze to Elena and asked in a deep voice, "Are they in the vicinity?" "I don't know." Elena shook her head like a rattledrum with a confused expression. "Sir, we were invited by the White Crane of the Tongtian Trading Company to go to the Annihilation Star region." Pattinson came out and said, "Our 3 kings should be on their way to the Annihilation Star region. Bandits are qualified to do this." The old man snorted with disdain. "How should I address you?" he asked Hu Kaiyun carefully. "Everyone calls me Lady Peach," Hu Kaiyun said casually. Lady Peach, Peach Blossom," the old Star Race expert muttered and looked stunned. But is it the evil cultivator who showed up in the Spirit Miasma realm not long ago?" The Spirit Miasma realm. The Star Race experts who had reached the land looked like they had been hit hard. They paled and kept a distance from Hu Kaiyun. The tragedy in the Spirit Miasma realm was no secret. A woman who called herself Lady Peach had killed almost all of the Dark Spirit clansmen living in the Spirit Miasma realm. Because of this, the Dark Spirit experts had been sent out to search for her. However, the Spirit Miasma realm was very far from the Annihilation Star region. Why would this Lady Peach show up here? "Benin, were you captured by bandits or them?" Wilson's eyes shone with puzzlement. He looked at Pattinson and then at Lady Peach. "Don't worry. You ran into me. I'll make sure you're safe." "Neither." Benin's attitude was cold. "No matter what, come with me to our warship." Wilson bowed politely and invited her. A noble like you doesn't look good in a dirty place like this. Dirty place? You're the dirty one, Elena said with a smile. Wilson turned his head and looked at her. He said in a disgusted tone, "Uneducated person. I know your father was an Azura general, but he was expelled from his race. You're a bandit now, not a young lady of a famous family. You don't have the right to talk to me like this. Aren't you just relying on your good ancestor?" Elena raised a fist at him and clenched it so hard it looked like blood would burst out of her palm. "Wilson, you're hundreds of years old, but you only have a rank 8 bloodline. What is there to be proud of? Look at me, I'm much younger than you, and I have a rank 8 bloodline." Rank 8, the elders of the star race felt the changes in Elena's body and looked shocked. Elena was very young. In the Azura race, she had just come of age. She had reached rank 8 bloodline. If she wasn't a bandit, she would be favored by the experts of the Azura race and qualified to enter the Dark Realm to train. He's my man. He's as young as me and stronger than all of you. Elena leaned proudly against Yu Yuan. Your man, a human? Wilson stilled and didn't seem to realize. Are you sure? Elena nodded strongly. Chapter 1041. The powerful races of the Outer Realms had always thought of the humans of Hauran as their worst enemy. Before the Divine Soul sect suddenly presented a brand new concept to them and started pushing it forward, the moment the two sides met, it would be a bloody battle without any suspense. Usually, it would end with one side dying. The loser wouldn't even have the chance to be enslaved. Under such circumstances, it was almost impossible for a human to have any emotional entanglements with a woman of a foreign race. But now, Elena clearly had a close relationship with Yu Yuan. She even came over to hold Yu Yuan's arm and proudly introduced him to everyone. What was going on? Wilson didn't know how to react. Bandits! Bandits! An old female expert from the star race, who was also from the Coleman family, looked at Elena as if she was looking at trash. You have completely disgraced the Azura race. Even if your father became a bandit, he still had his glory. But now, she snorted, because of you, his glory will become a stain. Fernan used to be a general of the Shura clan. He had a glorious past. Many outsider experts still had some respect for Fernan, who was a rogue bandit. You don't have the right to comment on my affairs. You better watch your mouth, old thing. Elena didn't back down. She looked at the old woman who seemed to be staggering, but only had a rank 8 bloodline. She said disdainfully, "You're so old, but you only have a rank 8 bloodline. Your combat strength and talent aren't worth mentioning, and you still have the face to criticize me?" Wilson frowned slightly and turned to look at Asa, the elder of the clan, with a questioning look in his eyes. The old star race expert with a rank 9 bloodline knew him too well. He immediately replied with a bloodline secret art, "This human boy should only be at the soul-wandering realm. He's a very strange person. According to the rules of Hauran, juniors at this level aren't qualified to set foot in the universe." After pondering for a moment, Asa said, "He's hiding something. I can't see through his flesh aura or his sea of consciousness. In short, there should be something strange about it." Wilson nodded almost imperceptibly. "He doesn't have to worry about it, but that Lady Peach." Asa hesitated for a moment, then said, "She's very troublesome. His battle prowess is unfathomable, and even I am not completely confident." "Understood," Wilson said. After a simple and secretive conversation, he decided to ignore Elena. Instead, he looked at the furious female elder with a stern gaze. The old woman of the Star tribe was about to continue bickering with Elena. She felt a chill in her heart and shut her mouth. She was also from the Coleman family, so she didn't dare to disobey Wilson, so she could only stay silent. "Benin, are you sure you don't want to join us?" Wilson's behavior was very restrained. He was no longer aggressive, and very patiently went to seek the permission of the Void Spirit Girl. Benin smiled and shook her head. "Thank you, but there's really no need." "All right then." Wilson didn't force him. He acted as if he didn't see Yu Yuan or anyone else. "I'll visit your teacher after we get to the Annihilation Star area. We received news that Senior Fei Shui will also come to the Annihilation Star area." "All right," Benin said softly. "Everyone, please be careful. Don't die before we enter the Annihilation Star area." Asa, who had a rank 9 bloodline, shot Hu Kaiyun a deep look before saying, "The Sky Span Trading Company said that all parties invited to the Domain of Annihilation can resolve their personal grudges on their own before entering the Domain of Annihilation. However, once we enter the Annihilation Star area, we won't be allowed to fight." Asa slapped his forehead and added, "Also, we've received news that experts from the 5 Supreme Forces have appeared in the vicinity of the Domain of Annihilation to gather information. You'd better pray that you don't run into them. Otherwise, haha." He retracted his gaze from Madame Peach Blossom and slowly rose into the sky. He clearly knew that Howren was in chaos right now. Lady Peach definitely wasn't with the 5 great forces. If she ran into them, she would either be killed or captured and sent back to Howren. "Hey, what's your name?" Yu Yuan, who hadn't spoken much, suddenly smiled and looked at an old Star Race man who was about to leave. That old man from the Star Clan was wearing clothes that were clearly different from the others. He probably wasn't from the Coleman family. He didn't stand out among the Star Race crowd, and he didn't take the initiative to show off. However, the Coleman family members next to him were very respectful to him. "Beck, I'm Beck." The Star Race old man, who was only at the 8th rank, replied in confusion. Seeing that Yu Yuan was staring at him, he pondered for a moment before adding, "Curtis and Beck." The Curtis family, Pattinson of the Shadow Race, Benin of the Phantom Race, and Hart's expressions changed slightly. "Do you know someone called Beirut?" Yu Yuan asked with a smile. Beck shook, his eyes shining with strange light. "That's my elder brother." "What, you know where he is?" Yu Yuan shook his head. "I've heard of him." "Oh." Beck looked disappointed. He suddenly lost interest in talking. He followed the puzzled Wilson and Asa towards the Star Race warship. "Is the Curtis family very famous?" Yu Yuan said in surprise. The Curtis family of the Star Race is the #1 family of the Star Race. Pattinson took a deep breath and said with deep respect, "The current patriarch of the Star Race, Below, is from the Curtis family. And the 9-star sage Beirut you just mentioned is Below's uncle. When Below was young, Beirut taught him many bloodline secret arts of the Star Race. The reason Below became the patriarch of the Star Race and the strongest expert of the Star Race is because of Beirut. Beirut is a very, very old sage of the Star Race. His status in the race is very high." He said some things about Beirut. Yu Yuan finally understood how high the status of the 9-star sage who led the Star Race clansmen into Howren was. The Coleman family Wilson belonged to and the Curtis family behind Beirut were not on the same level. One of them once gave birth to a rank 10 expert, but he was killed by the demon phoenix of the Goblin Temple. The other one had a rank 10 bloodline expert, Below, who was at the peak of his power. "What is the status of Canli of the Light Race?" Yu Yuan asked again. "Canli? Canli, who was born with a life altar?" Elena cried out in surprise. Yu Yuan nodded. "A true prodigy. The pride and future of a race. Canli is a priceless treasure of the Light Race. A person like Wilson is not even worthy of carrying her shoes." Speaking of Canli, even Elena felt inferior. She is a genius who has been raised as the future patriarch since she was young. Benin, Hart, and the other foreign races nodded in agreement. Yu Yuan stroked his chin as he secretly understood what was going on. The first batch of foreign guests invited by the Shunhun sect and the Tongtian Trading Company to the Fallen Moon Forbidden Land through the realm passageway of the demonic abyss of calamity were extraordinary. The 9-star sage Beirut came from the Curtis family. He was the senior of the current patriarch below. Canley was the future patriarch of the light race. In that case, Mia of the dark spirit race, Sansom of the female demon race, and the others all had extraordinary backgrounds. He just didn't know if they were still alive. That Lady Peach is holding the Dark Paradise hostage. I noticed the look on that Shadow Race patriarch's face. Asa came to a conclusion the moment he returned to the Star Race's starship. Lady Peach is a Howran evil cultivator. She might want to join the Tongtian Trading Company. Bandits don't deserve to enter the domain of annihilation with us, Wilson said. Bandits won't cause any trouble even if they die. But since a Freedom Realm expert is involved. Asa pondered for a moment before his eyes lit up. That's easy. I know that the Dark Spirit Race's starship isn't far from us. I'll inform them that Lady Peach, who destroyed the Spirit Miasma realm, is in the Dark Paradise behind us. Upon hearing these words, all of the Star Race clansmen clapped their thighs and cheered. Hu Tsayun's arrival in the Spirit Miasma realm had caused the Dark Spirit Race's territory to go extinct. If the Dark Spirit Race tried to kill her or make trouble for her, the Skyspan Trading Company wouldn't be able to say anything. As long as they didn't enter the domain of annihilation, the trading company would allow them to settle their personal grudges outside. This way, they would be able to achieve their goal without shedding a drop of blood. The Dark Spirit Race would be grateful to them, and they might even give them valuable gifts when they arrived at the domain of annihilation. The upper limit of that void spirit called Bei Ning's bloodline has changed. Beck, who was from the Curtis family, suddenly interjected. At the very least, he'll be able to reach rank 9 bloodline. In the future, she might even have a slim chance of reaching rank 10 bloodline. His words shook many of the Star Race clansmen present. Tell the Dark Spirit clan to be careful, Wilson said hurriedly. The others can die, but Benin must live. The Star Race clansmen present all knew what he was thinking. They understood even more when they heard him say this. Don't worry, I know what to do. Damn it. Elena stood on the platform, gritting her teeth and waving her arms. Vast amounts of blood energy burst out of her body, causing the air to crackle. They didn't put away those Star Dome Divine cannons. Elena was very angry. The star energy surging inside them is so obvious. Do they think we can't see it? The Star Race warships that could have shaken them off quickly and disappeared from their sight were moving at a steady pace. Also, the holes of the long prismatic crystals that were set up were indeed aimed at the Dark Paradise. It was as if they had forgotten to put them away. Pattinson wasn't stupid. Wilson of the Star Race naturally wouldn't forget. He didn't care about the bandits and the Dark Paradise at all. He even thought that if it weren't for Yu Yuan and Hu Kaiyun on the Dark Paradise, they would have been shot down a long time ago. Those Star Race clansmen probably have other plans, Lady Peach said to Yu Yuan with a relaxed expression. It shouldn't be a big deal, right? Yu Yuan, who was thinking about something else, nodded casually. Don't worry about it. The Silver Moon Queen carried the bloodline of the Moonlight people. She had been created by Consort Yu of the ancient Moon Devils. The Moon Sect of the Star Moon Sect seemed to have many spiritual incantations and secret magics that were similar to those of the ancient Moon Devils and the Moonlight people. It was said that the most mysterious sect master of the Moon Sect had been helped to ascend to godhood by the Shunhun sect because he carried the bloodline of the Moonlight people. He pondered for a moment and suddenly thought of Lu Ying, the genius girl of the Star Moon Sect, and her meteor eyes. Wilson, who had just left, was wearing clothes with fine star patterns, which reminded him of something. The Howran's blood god was believed to be very similar to the Blood Devil's spiritual incantations and bloodline magic. Both of them could extract the blood of powerful outsiders to strengthen themselves. The Star-Moon sect was divided into the Star sect and the Moon sect, which were similar to the Star race, the Moonlight people, and the ancient Moon Devils. You're right, Nyetian said. There's no need to dwell on these things. Many of the Howran's sects and forces do have connections with the races from beyond the heavens. Yui sensed what he was thinking. In order to deal with the dragons, the advanced races in the Starry River have given us a lot of help in our rise to power. Of course, they've also taught us the wonders of star power, moon power, and blood power. The Howran's people are too smart, and have endless potential. With their foundation, they've gained a deeper understanding of these wondrous laws. That's why they've created tools and incantations with greater destructive power, which they've used to kill them. Don't be surprised. They might be the initiators of some of the human sects, but in terms of the exquisite use of power, the human sects are no less powerful than them. In fact, they've long since surpassed them. Yui helped him sort out the confusion in his heart. I think the star behemoths were the source of this earlier. Yu Yuan gazed into the darkness behind him, a shadow appearing in his heart. The primal Chaos Kuan must have learned my general location the moment I left the Starry River. P.S. Well, it's Christmas Eve. I hope you don't go home tonight. Chapter 1042. At the bottom of the frigid abyss in the Howran heaven and earth, Lin Zhuyun, who exuded an extremely cold aura, stood in a strange place with 7 mysterious pits. Her expression was extremely grim as she stared at the pits over and over again, trying to confirm something. Some of the 7 pits were burning with cold flames, some were overflowing with thick frost mist, and some were shining with extremely cold light. None of the flames, frost mist, or icy light were affected by the seawater. A huge, square-shaped ice soul freezing crystal stood in front of her, illuminating her beautiful figure and making her look like a mirror. She stared at the 7 holes in her eyes, occasionally showing pain. It was as if she was being tortured all the time. Her beautiful face was also distorted by the pain. When the pain subsided, she seemed to be the beautiful girl from the Lin clan of the Silver Moon Empire. All of a sudden, a series of mysterious symbols that she had never seen before appeared on the Frost Soul Frost Crystal in front of her. The symbols seemed to represent the profound laws of frost power. She felt dizzy just by looking at them. However, instead of being shocked, she was overjoyed, as if she was looking forward to something. Whoosh! A while later, her body was suddenly sucked into the huge Frost Soul Frost Crystal, like an insect in amber. Countless mysterious symbols flew into her body from within the Frost Soul Frost Crystal like tens of thousands of butterflies. It was also at this moment that the enormous Ice Soul Cold Crystal was sucked into the 7 holes that led to an unknown location. The light emitted from the holes was extremely cold, and it sank into the holes. As soon as the Frost Soul Frost Crystal fell into the mysterious pits, terrifying power that was strong enough to crush a Freedom Realm cultivator to death attacked her from all directions. No one except peak demon gods and nascent divinities could resist such power. At the same time, the numerous mysterious symbols that had entered Lin Zhuyun's body exploded one after another in her place. The shattered light immediately merged into her flesh and soul, preventing her from being killed in body and soul. However, she still fainted because of it. After a long time, Lin Zhuyun slowly woke up, and found that the Frost Soul Frost Crystal had stopped at the bottom of another sea. She floated out of the Frost Soul Frost Crystal with a confused expression. She looked around and saw that many spots of extremely cold light had disappeared into the ground under her feet. The ground beneath her feet was like a sponge, sucking in countless cold spots of light. This part of the sea seemed to be some kind of magical formation that gathered frost power and condensed it into tiny spots of light that merged into the ground. With her eyes closed, she sensed with the frost power she had comprehended, and confirmed that this part of the sea was madly absorbing and condensing extremely cold light spots into the bottom of the sea under her feet. Strange, she muttered to herself. Suddenly, she felt a stabbing pain in her head. At the same time, some power that didn't belong to her had appeared in her flesh, and her internal organs were filled with profound truths of the frigid nine depths. She also remembered that not long ago, President Lee of the Skyspan Trading Company had arrived at the bottom of the Nine Hells' frigid abyss. That huge frost soul-chilling crystal was also brought by President Lee. President Lee showed her a path that could allow her to leave the vast world. He also told her frankly that this was a deal between President Lee and the primal Chaos Kun. Sending her away from Haodong was only part of the deal. It's just a deal. With a cold smile on her face, she stepped on the huge frost soul frost crystal and charged towards the sea. Crack! The ice covering the surface of the sea was broken, and she floated to the surface. Then, she saw an extremely cold world of ice and snow, and she saw many glaciers. One of the glaciers was carved into the shape of a huge white crane. A man in white was playing a flute at the head of the crane. The melodious sound of the flute was filled with nostalgia for home. As if noticing her arrival, the man in white who was playing the flute stopped and looked at her from afar. At first glance, Lin Zhuyun, who was well versed in frost power, felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave and could be killed by this person in the next second. President Lee sent me a message saying that you would be coming soon, and asked me to come and take a look, the man in white said in a calm tone. I'm a guest elder of the Tongtian Trading Company. Lin Zhuyun, who had experienced many killings, quickly calmed down with a heart as firm as iron. She took a deep breath of the frigid air, feeling that it was filled with power that was harmful to her fleshly body. Eyebrows furrowed, she asked, "May I ask where we are?" "The domain of annihilation. This dead star has long since lost its name. All you need to know is that this world of extreme frost is one of the 7 mouths of the frigid depths," the man in white explained. 7 mouths of the frigid depths? Lin Zhuyun's heart shuddered as she remembered the 7 mouths she had seen in the wondrous place in the frigid depths of the 9 serenities. Could it be that each of the mouths of the frigid depths corresponded to a world of extreme frost? That's right. The white-robed man who was playing the flute seemed to be able to hear her thoughts. The 7 mouths of the frigid depths correspond to the 7 frigid realms. They gather the frost power from the 7 realms in the starry river and channel it into the frigid depths of the 9 serenities after it is gathered and refined. Are the mysteries of the frigid depths of the 9 serenities created by the starry river? Lin Zhuyun asked in astonishment. The man in white nodded. In the dark paradise, which was flying at full speed, Yu Yuan, who was sitting on the high platform and studying the 9 slashes that prop up the heavens, suddenly shuddered. What's wrong? Hu Kaiyun asked, looking confused. I feel as if someone has been watching me, Yu Yuan said with a frown. I've always thought that the primal Chaos Kun knows where I am. Just now, that primal Chaos Kun, whose true body I don't know, seemed to have been triggered by something and unleashed its terrifying power. He didn't know that Lin Zhuyun had just arrived in the domain of annihilation through one of the so-called mouths of the frigid depth. It was all thanks to the primal Chaos Kun that Lin Zhuyun was able to defeat that heavenly devil that possessed her. Lin Zhuyun was another important pawn of that star behemoth. Her arrival had been sensed by the primal Chaos Kun. If you have something to do with that star behemoth, it can indeed sense you. Under another high platform, Benin opened her eyes and said with great certainty, the ancient beings that were born at the beginning of time have too many innate divine abilities that we can't imagine. Star behemoths were the creators of the void spirits and the origin of their bloodlines. When her master, Fei Shui, had taught her many secret magics about the void spirits, she had heard Fei Shui talk about the wonders of star behemoth. That was why she had believed that star behemoths had such power. That's right. Yu Yuan didn't doubt her at all. Instead, he nodded at Benin in gratitude. I'd better go to the domain of annihilation as soon as possible. I have a feeling that Star Behemoth is watching me. Only when I'm in the domain of annihilation, where the powerful experts of the Tongtian Trading Company and the Shenhun sect are there, will I be safe. That Star Race starship is very annoying, Hu Kaiyun said softly. Yu Yuan's face grew grim as he glanced at the Star Race starships that were aiming at them with the Star Dome Divine cannons. I'm annoyed by them too. My old man is in front of us. Elena sprang to her feet, both excited and uneasy. That's not right. No matter how powerful my old man is, he won't be able to get in front of us from the Moonshine Realm. My big brother, my big brother. Pattinson of the Shadow Race seemed to have sensed Ronnie's movements with the help of the secret devices in the Dark Paradise. My big brother is in front of us too. He told us to go around him and not meet him. Elena shuddered. My old man also urged me to run away. She exchanged a glance with Pattinson, and saw the worry and anxiety in each other's eyes. Apparently, she knew that Fernand and Ronnie were the ones who had urged the people closest to them to run away. Either they were in danger or they were in danger. Or they had been seriously injured or captured. Something happened to my father, Elena said with a sobbing tone. That's why he told me to run away. Pattinson took a deep breath and shot Yu Yuan an apologetic look. Maybe it's time for us to say goodbye. I'll drive the Dark Paradise to my big brother's location. No matter what happens, I'll go. Me too, Elena exclaimed. I'll go with you, Yu Yuan replied. Chapter 1043. That's not necessary, is it? It was Lady Peach who spoke. She raised an eyebrow and floated to the platform where Yu Yuan was. For the first time, her expression grew serious. Then, she said in the slang of the Silver Moon Empire, Yu Yuan, if Ronnie and Fernand are both in danger, it means that the enemy is unusually strong. She turned her head and looked at the overjoyed Pattinson and Elena. They're just bandits and outsiders. Someone like you wouldn't care about them, would you? In his previous life, the drug god Hanch had lived a short and glorious life. He didn't have many emotional entanglements. From what she knew, Hanch wasn't tied down by women. He had always been decisive, and would do anything to achieve his goals. Women were something Hanch cared about? Not to mention outsiders. She thought that the romance between Yu Yuan and the Shura girl was just a temporary romance. Yu Yuan wasn't worth it to put himself in danger for a woman of a foreign race. I'm just curious, Yu Yuan explained. It can't be the Tongtian Trading Company. Since that white crane has sent them an invitation, it won't attack them when they're close to the domain of annihilation. Hu Kaiyun analyzed calmly. There's a high chance that it's a regular army of the outsiders, and they're very strong. It could also be the humans who hunt other races. After pausing for 3 seconds, she spoke again. No matter which side it is, there's no need to contact them before entering the Annihilation star system. Both Ronnie and Fernand were at the 9th grade. Both of them had sent messages to Pattinson and Elena, telling them to flee as soon as possible. This meant that the enemy was extremely terrifying. Hu Kaiyun wasn't arrogant enough to think that she could defeat Ronnie and Fernand alone. That was why she tried to persuade them. She wanted to ally with Yu Yuan and use Yu Yuan's strength and identity to gain the favor of the Shenhun sect. She didn't want anything to happen to them before they entered the Annihilation star system. It's fine. I'm just looking. Yu Yuan smiled, hinting at Pattinson with his eyes. Don't mind the battleships of the Star Clan. Reduce the energy of the defense. Put all the energy into the speed. Okay, Pattinson said excitedly. Elena jumped high and landed between Yu Yuan and Hu Kaiyun. She glared at Hu Kaiyun and then said to Yu Yuan, "Thank you." Yu Yuan's expression was calm. The cauldron's soul had been awakened, and Consort Han had become even stronger. He had also gained some insight into the 9 slashes of the mighty heaven recently. In the depths of his heart, he yearned for a cruel and bloody battle. Even if it was accompanied by a certain amount of danger, he did not mind. Wait. At this moment Benin suddenly uttered, "I will go to the Star Clan's battleship." Scared? Elena sneered. Not scared. If I go there, I can avoid a lot of trouble. Benin didn't care about her. She explained to Yu Yuan, "I will persuade the Star Clan to not cause any trouble during this time. You come with me too," she said softly. Hart nodded. Swoosh. Rings of light covered Hart of the Silver Scale Clan. Benin held the shining silver ring, nodded to Yu Yuan, and then pulled Hart towards the Star Clan's battleship. In just a flash, she and Hart disappeared. At this moment, Yu Yuan asked Pattinson to activate the Dark Paradise. Benin. On the battleship of the Star Race, Wilson of the Coleman family saw the charming Void Spirit Girl coming without any warning. He said with a surprised face, "What? Have you thought it through?" "Gloomy Paradise is leaving quickly," Asa shouted. "Don't worry. Since the Dark Spirit Race's battleship isn't far from here, there's no need for us to keep an eye on it." Wilson smiled and said to Benin, "The human woman from the Dark Paradise is causing great suffering in the spirit miasma realm. The experts of the Dark Spirit Race are searching for her everywhere." The Dark Spirit Race. Benin's eyes flashed as if she had caught something. She guessed that Ronnie and Fernand's death was because they had encountered the Dark Spirit Race. "Young Master, the Dark Spirit Race hasn't responded to us," Asa reminded him in a small voice. "Ignore them. When we see them in the Annihilation Star Domain, we will know what happened." Wilson's attention was completely focused on Bei Ning. "Congratulations, you've broken through to rank 8 bloodline. You are so young. Your status in your race will be extraordinary in the future." Benin was a little reserved. She wasn't used to his sudden enthusiasm. Seeing that the Gloomy Paradise was already speeding up, she hesitated and said, "The Gloomy Paradise has discovered something. I came over to inform you." Asa was surprised when he heard this. "You want to keep an eye on the Grey Paradise?" "My master told me to follow them," Benin answered. "So this is Lord Fisher's arrangement." Without even asking for Wilson's opinion, he turned around and ordered, "Follow the Dark Paradise and see where they're going." "Got it." Numerous fragmented meteors had gathered to form a cluster of meteors in the void. An ancient-looking ancient starship that had been built with strange, ancient trees was shattered, with beasts shining with golden light flying out of it. The blood-curdling screams of the dark spirits being gnawed and devoured by the beasts filled the air. This cruel battle ended with the Dark Spirit Race's death. The 9th-grade golden stone beast revealed its mountainous body and crouched on top of the ancient starship. The dark green blood on its sharp claws had long since dried up. A 9th-grade dark spirit elder had a hole in his heart, with fine golden sparks sputtering out of it. The 9th-grade demon's cold eyes shone with the light of cruelty from time to time. Crunch! He snapped the dark spirit elder's neck with his sharp, jagged mouth, green blood flowing out of the corner of his mouth. An expression of enjoyment and intoxication appeared in his eyes, as if he had tasted the delicious taste of flesh and blood. Meanwhile, the 8th-grade golden stone beasts that followed him were also searching for dark spirits that hadn't died yet on the ancient starship, feasting on their sweet blood. Most of the grand demons of the Goblin Temple were brutal and cruel. After rushing out of Howran, they would vent their bestial nature to their heart's content. Outsiders who were unlucky enough to run into the Goblin Temple's army would often end up like this. Not only would they die, but they would also be devoured by the grand demons until not even their bones were left. On a few meteors in front of them, more than a dozen sun spirit cultivators of the human clan were killing the other dark spirit clansmen who had fled. The last one was Ronnie of the Shadow Clan, who was covered in blood and on the verge of death. The Shadow Clan was good at escaping and hiding. However, their strength wasn't very impressive in a real battle. At this moment, the aura and demonic energy of the 9th grade golden stone beasts permeated every piece of the meteors. Ronnie had nowhere to hide. He was already seriously injured, and under the bombardment of so many young god cultivators with their spiritual tools, he could do nothing but wait for his death. Meanwhile, Yumu from the Sword Sect swung his heavenly water sword and slashed out sword lights that contained water power to suppress Fernan. The Shura general was also covered in wounds. Most of his natural spikes had been broken. As one of the 9 sword immortals of the Sword Sect, Yumu, who had just become a sword immortal, was the best at fighting for a long time. His heavenly water sword could slowly exert force and weave a flawless sword net, slowly wearing down the enemy until the enemy's soul was scattered and they were completely dead. At this moment, Fernan was trapped in his carefully woven sword net and couldn't escape. With every second that passed, Fernan's injuries worsened. He was bleeding, his bones were broken, and his internal organs were ruptured. The vast blood power in his body was infiltrated and slowly eroded by the fine sword intent. In addition, several young god cultivators from the Juling School, the Heavenly Diabolism sect, and the Voodoo sect cooperated with Yumu with all kinds of evil arts, making Fernan muddle-headed, as if he couldn't feel much physical pain. It made it impossible for him to concentrate and break free of the sword net. Jean Runin and Sun Jun didn't do anything. They just watched from the sidelines. Speaking of which, Ronnie and Fernan were unlucky. The 2 bandit kings happened to run into a dark spirit battleship, and a conflict broke out between them. The 2 9th grade bandit kings didn't seem to be at a disadvantage against the dark spirit battleship, which only had 1 9th grade bloodline expert and a large number of 8th grade experts. Therefore, a battle broke out. The 9th grade golden stone beast from the Goblin Temple had refined a cluster of meteors that had been soaked in the blood of rock people. Grand demons were wandering around the domain of annihilation. After sensing the battle between the 2 bandit kings and the dark spirit battleship, they snuck over. Taking advantage of the fact that both sides had consumed a lot of their bloodline power, they charged out. The 9th grade dark spirit expert was killed in a sneak attack, and the golden stone beast's unique ancient starship was torn apart. Ronnie was severely injured and was being besieged. If there were no mishaps, he would die. Based on their understanding of the heavenly water sword, now that Fernan had fallen into Yumu's carefully woven sword net, he probably wouldn't be able to escape. Sooner or later, he would die in it. The Grey Paradise. Sun Jun abruptly turned around to look at the floating continent that was dragging golden chains behind it. Her expression flickered with astonishment. Jean Runin's expression flickered with astonishment as he jerked his head around, and saw the floating continent as well. This can't be right. Why would we run into the Grey Paradise? She wondered. Of course, she didn't know that Bertha from the Moonlight People had kept the Grey Paradise on a floating continent for a long time. Later, they had been entangled by Star Race starships, and hadn't dared to travel at their normal speed. Because of this, the Grey Paradise's speed in entering the domain of annihilation had been greatly delayed. However, this cluster of meteors that the 9th grade golden stone beast had refined was traveling at a fast speed at the edge of the domain of annihilation. They were fast, while the Grey Paradise was slow, which was why they had run into each other again. I hope that Yu Yuan has left. Jean Runin started to worry about Yu Yuan, because she already knew what had happened in Howren, and that Yu Yuan had always been good to the Red Devil School. She also knew that the Grand Cultivators and demons loyal to the 5 Supreme Forces wouldn't show any mercy to Yu Yuan. Sun Jun knew what she was thinking, so he lowered his voice and explained. He and Lady Peach are both in the Grey Paradise. What should we do? If a conflict breaks out, should we? Just wait and see, Jean Runin said in a low voice. Big brother! Pattinson stood at the forefront of the gray paradise, his eyes bloodshot and his body shaking violently. Surrounded by more than a dozen sun god grand cultivators, large chunks of flesh flew out of his body from time to time. His clothes and armor had already been blown apart, exposing his skin and flesh. Bone-deep wounds could be seen everywhere, and several thumb-sized holes in his abdomen were still bleeding. When Ronnie tried to escape, he would tremble violently, as if he had been poisoned. The young spirit realm cultivators of the human clan were either indifferent or talking with smiles. They were constantly adding new wounds to Ronnie's body like a cat catching a mouse. They were not in a hurry to destroy his body and soul in an instant. This in itself was an insult to Ronnie. Ronnie's footsteps became heavier and heavier. Every time he took a deep breath, his internal organs burned with pain. His eyes were cloudy, but he could still hear Pattinson's shouts and feel his brother's flesh aura. He shook violently and bit the tip of his tongue. Ignoring the taste of blood in his mouth, he sent another message with the secret blood magic. Go away. Don't come here. If possible, avenge me in the future. Don't come here to die. I want you to live. Live well. A series of hoarse cries of blood came out of Pattinson's chest. Pattinson clenched his fists and clenched them hard. He had already seen clearly that the attackers were many sun god grand cultivators of the human race and a level 9 golden crag beast. He also saw the Sword of Heavenly Water, Yumu weaving a continuous sword net to imprison Fernan. His flesh aura surged. He wanted to rush over and kill all the human cultivators who were besieging his brother. He wanted to blast them into a bloody mist one by one. But his reason made him understand that he might not be a match for any of the sun gods. As long as he rushed over, he would probably end up even more miserable than his brother. Out of his deep-rooted fear of the human race and the great demons, and his brother's scolding, he took deep breaths to calm himself down, so that he could see the situation clearly and make the most rational decision. Before he knew it, he had bitten his lips and smelled his own blood. It seemed that this was the only way he could stay clear-headed. You useless old thing! Elena stared at Fernan with a sobbing voice. She also saw the intertwining bloodstains on her father's body, but her legs stayed still. The level 8 Azura warrior, who had been loyal to Fernan all his life and had been released by Hu Kaiyun, desperately pressed her shoulder to stay where she was. When she glared at him, the Azura warrior shook his head with a sorrowful expression. Don't go to your death. As soon as this bloodline Azura warrior met Fernan's eyes, he knew that with their strength, they couldn't change anything. With one look from Fernan, he knew what the general meant and what he could do. The only thing he could do was stop Elena and tell her not to do anything stupid. Hong Hong. Yumu, one of the 9 sword immortals, narrowed his eyes and saw Yu Yuan on the dark paradise. After comparing it with the portrait he had received from the boundless heaven and earth, he knew who it was. With complicated feelings, Yumu slowed down his execution of Fernan, wondering if he should pretend that he had never met Yu Yuan in his previous life. Pooh! A thin sword that was as thin as a cicada's wing suddenly pierced Ronnie's chest, nailing the king of bandits to the hard ground. Beams of cyan lightning flew out of the thin sword, destroying Ronnie's body and penetrating his soul. A man in the robes of the lightning sect landed behind Ronnie and squatted down. Holding the hilt of his sword with one hand, he looked up at Pattinson with a smile and said in a soft voice, "Do you want to come closer and see how he died?" He slowly turned the hilt of his sword. Ronnie could no longer control himself. As the hilt turned, he let out heart-wrenching screams. Chapter 1044. The bandit king from the Shadow Clan let out an ear-piercing howl as blood spurted out of his chest. The young soul realm cultivator from the lightning element sect was extraordinarily handsome. When he smiled, he revealed a mouthful of dazzling white teeth. However, the way he gripped his sword was filled with cruelty. Hundreds of slender blue lightning bolts gnawed at Ronnie's heart like dragons, extinguishing his soul. If one could see through Ronnie's skin, they would see that most of his flesh and organs were charred black. The abundant life force of a ninth-grade bloodline warrior had been almost completely eroded. The lightning element sect expert named Huang Baichi was in the late Yang Soul realm. He was a little over 200 years old, the prime of a cultivator's life. If he could successfully enter the freedom realm within 50 years, he would be able to challenge for the position of sect master of the lightning element sect. Over the years, he had accumulated merit points in the outer realms, collected many precious materials, and tempered his mind in preparation for his breakthrough into the freedom realm. He was full of confidence for the future. He had always been ruthless when dealing with outsiders. Hundreds of experts of various races had died at his hands. That being said, a rank 9 bloodline warrior like Ronnie was still a rare sight. He enjoyed the process of slowly torturing Ronnie and watching him die in despair. "Big brother!" Pattinson let out a hoarse roar like a trapped beast. He clenched his fists tightly, bloody light bursting out. Thump! Thump thump! His heart beat wildly, as if it were about to explode. "Blood brother!" The handsome Huang Baichi's slender eyes shone with the light of surprise. He smiled and said, "Blood brothers of the Shadow Clan. It's said that blood can be connected through a secret method. I don't know if it's true or not." With these words, a crystal the size of a fingernail was suddenly condensed in his hand. Lightning flashed and thunder roared inside the crystal, as if tiny dragons were swallowing and spitting lightning. "Go!" He flicked his finger, and the tiny crystal flew into Ronnie's heart. The tiny dragons that had just grown inside roared and rushed out, biting into Ronnie's heart. Ronnie's wails no longer sounded like those of an intelligent being, but more like those of a dying beast. "Ah!" Pattinson let out a low roar, covering his chest with his hands as if he were doing his best to stop something. He could clearly feel a stabbing pain in his heart, as if needles were stabbing into it. Boom! Rumble! The earth of the dark paradise started to shake violently. The stone pavilions that looked like pagodas swayed, as if they were about to collapse. Yu Yuan's expression was indifferent. He looked on coldly, not in a hurry to express his opinion. He saw Huang Baichi torturing Ronnie, the dark spirit clansman being eaten by the golden stone beasts, and Yu Mu, the sword of heavenly water, besieging the Shura general. When he had been in the Nye spirit world, he had witnessed the way Zhan Runan and the other 4 grand cultivators had dealt with the outsiders and bandit. Adding in some of Hu Tsaiyun's words, he was already used to it. The Yang spirit cultivators of Howran and the great demons of the Goblin Temple were used to being cruel and bloody when dealing with the foreign races. There was nothing to be surprised about. What surprised him the most was that the great sword immortal who wielded the heavenly water sword with freedom realm cultivation was actually Yu Mu. 300 years later, Yu Mu's appearance hadn't changed much. He recognized him with a single glance. "Yu Mu," he muttered in his mind, but his expression didn't change. He pretended that he didn't know anything. "Hu Kaiyun." The level 9 golden crag beast looked at Madame Peach Blossom coldly with its ferocious eyes. Its mountain-like body slowly shrunk and transformed into a burly man with golden curved horns. "Jinli, this is the first time we've met since you stepped out of Howran, right?" Hu Kaiyun suddenly withdrew her smile and looked at the golden stone beast who had transformed into a human. His face, neck, and bare upper body was covered in scars. "The last time you came to visit me in the Rosy Cloud Miasma Sea as a representative of the Goblin Temple was 100 years ago. You didn't give the Goblin Temple any face." Jinli laughed. 100 years ago, 3 great demons who could refine miasma poison wanted to seek a bloodline breakthrough in the rosy cloud miasma sea. As an emissary of the Goblin Temple, Jin Li discussed with Hu Kaiyun. He hoped that the 3 great demons could go to Hu Tsayun's territory and consume the miasma to complete a bloodline transformation. However, Hu Kaiyun bluntly refused. The Goblin Temple knew that Hu Kaiyun was a Xuantianzong expert, and that her partner had been sacrificed for a scheme of the 3 high sections. Therefore, after Hu Kaiyun refused, the Goblin Temple couldn't do anything. Jin Li could only obediently leave the rosy cloud miasma sea. However, Jin Li, who had taken the initiative to accept the mission, returned to the Goblin Temple with a stomach full of dissatisfaction. Even though he was dissatisfied, he couldn't do anything to Hu Kaiyun, so the matter was left unsettled. Not long after, he followed the Goblin Temple army into the depths of the Starry River to hunt. He accumulated a lot of merits and his strength soared. The Goblin Temple thought highly of him. He didn't expect that he would see Hu Kaiyun again 100 years later at the edge of the Annihilation star system. For the sake of the Goblin Temple? As Hu Kaiyun spoke, a sea of colorful clouds emerged from her body, and many fierce beasts that were loyal to the Goblin Temple appeared. Before I left Howren, I didn't show any mercy to those ungrateful demon guards in the rosy cloud miasma sea. Jin Li knew 2 of the fierce beasts that had died in the sea of colorful clouds. This made him snort with a grim expression. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 8th-level golden stone beasts dashed out of the exploded ancient starship of the dark spirits. Some of them even had pieces of flesh in their mouth. Sensing the anger of their leader, the golden stone beasts instantly fixed their ferocious eyes on Hu Kaiyun. An incomparably strong smell of blood seemed to cross the Starry River and be injected into the dark paradise. Pattinson and Elena both felt uncomfortable. Even their chi and blood couldn't flow smoothly. Yu Yuan grinned and chuckled. She activated the life altar and her heart skipped a beat. The 8th-level golden stone beasts that had rushed out suddenly sensed the terrifying aura of the life altar. Panic instantly appeared in their ferocious eyes. Jin Li, the 9th-level golden stone beasts, also sensed that something was wrong. His face suddenly twisted. That kid beside Hu Kaiyun seems to be one of us. He's in the Soul Wander realm, but he's not in the Howren star system. I think I've seen that kid somewhere before. No, I think I've seen his portrait before. Portrait? Because of the golden stone beast's unusual behavior, the Yang God grade cultivators that had besieged Rani all noticed Yu Yuan. After observing him for a while, they began to discuss among themselves. Soon. He's Yu Yuan. Yu Yuan from Dark Moon City. Yu Yuan from the Forbidden Land of the Fallen Moons. Yu Yuan. More than a dozen cultivators from the Heavenly Source Continent and the Tranquil Continent, including Jin Li, the 9th-level golden stone beast, were all shocked upon hearing Yu Yuan's name. In a flash, all of their gazes and attention were focused on Yu Yuan. Compared to him, Hu Kaiyun instantly paled in comparison. After disappearing from the realm passage in the Forbidden Land of the Fallen Moons with the 2 pieces of the dragon beheading platform, Yu Yuan's name had spread throughout the entire Howren. Whether it was the human cultivators, the powerful demons of the Goblin Temple, or the sects and empires that sided with the Shunhun sect, everyone was talking about him. The medicine god Hanch had been reincarnated as Yu Yuan, entered the Soul Wander realm in a very short time, and obtained the Shunhun sect's secret legacies. Everything about Yu Yuan had been widely publicized, and had become a miracle that everyone knew about. These young god-grade cultivators, who had been fighting in the Starry River all year round, found this shocking news hard to believe, as if they were listening to a heavenly book. However, the sects that supported them had told them to keep an eye out for Yu Yuan, and report it to them as soon as possible. If they could capture Yu Yuan alive or kill him, they would be able to accumulate an incomparably generous amount of contribution points. Compared to Yu Yuan, Hu Caiyun's life was not worth mentioning. Fernan, spare his life. Yu Yuan said these words to the air, without even looking at Yu Mu, as if he didn't know that Fernan's life was now in the hands of Yu Mu, the sword of heavenly water. Yu Mu didn't give any response. The net of sword lights was still tightly bound to Fernan. It was as if nothing had changed. However, Fernan could clearly sense that the incomparably fierce sword intent within the sword net had quietly weakened. The wounds on his body were no longer unbearable. Fernan, the former Shura general and the current king of bandits, shot a confused glance at Yu Yuan. Of course, he also saw his beloved daughter, who was standing beside Yu Yuan. Eighth level bloodline. Fernan's tall body suddenly trembled, and a strange light flashed across his eyes. He immediately glared at Elena with a stern expression, and transmitted his thoughts to her through the pendant around Elena's neck. Idiot! Now that you've broken through to the 8th level, you should know that you have the chance to avenge me. It's not like you haven't seen the people and demons of Howren before. I've told you how cruel and terrifying they are since you were a child. Fernan's shout was similar to Ronnie's. Splash! A streak of dazzling starlight arrived like a bolt of lightning, and the experts of the star spirits emerged from it. Huang Baichi from the lightning element sect chuckled and nodded. The star spirits? So they're waiting for reinforcement. Jinli, Yu Mu, the sun god realm experts, and the numerous golden stone beasts also temporarily shifted their gazes to observe the star spirit's battleship with rapt attention. Soon, Jinli calmed down and said, "They're here to die again." Yu Mu nodded imperceptibly, indicating that he could handle it. Humans and demons of Howren. On the other hand, Wilson, Asa, and the others on the Star Spirit's battleship looked bitter and uneasy. What the allied forces of the foreign races in the Starry River feared the most was an enemy made up of humans and demons. Those guys from the Dark Spirit clan are all dead. A cowardly Star Race clansman couldn't help but shudder when she saw the level 8 golden stone beast still biting the flesh in its mouth. No wonder there's no reply. They've all been killed. Of course there's no reply. She stuttered. Young master, let's get into the domain of annihilation as soon as possible. Don't stay here and watch. Asa screamed. Wilson nodded heavily. Okay. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.